Gotta play harder to get.
Falco_77 just subscribed. Triss is valid, pass it on.
Thank you, Hayden, for the subscription. Thank you very much. I think we can, let's put the music down a little bit. And let's get ourselves ready. I will very soon be joined by a very lovely guest who has been long awaited on this channel. But until then I have to fill in some time. Not gonna have some music on. Gonna maybe wait. How long have I been on? So I think a good play. I'm just gonna turn the music off for now. I think that works better. So it's fine. Hello, Hayden. You're here earlier than expected. I thought you weren't available until 7 your time. But yeah, I need to fill some time until our guest can join the call. So understandable. Don't wanna eat live on stream. Of course, I would not at all be professional. The joke was going to be that I was going to do a very loud slurp for my drink, but it actually is still very hot and caught me off guard. I got a new thermoscan, which it's a very small one, but a family that I saw recently had like a bunch left, and we're like, hey, just have one. Because my old one is so broken that within an hour, whatever I put in it is cold again. Which kind of beats the point of having a thermoscan. So I got this new one, and I'm gonna have to get used to the fact that if I put a hot drink next to me now, in a sealed canister, and I open it up after a few minutes, it's not suddenly cold yet. How criminal. Oh, that's really fucking hot. I'm gonna need to wait a little while until it's ready to drink. But yeah, I figured while we wait for our guest to join, I do have a few topics I want to get started on. And I think the first really good topic to start with and kind of talk about is my current streaming plan. Like, what am I doing with my streams? How do I want to keep working on the channel? Because I really want to, have some form of continuous growth. I really don't want to. I want to keep doing this for a very long time, and a very big issue with that I noticed is, in order to keep doing this, you need to always keep doing something to keep growing a little bit. Always keep improving in some way. And I think the main challenge that I'm noticing in that regard is, what do I keep myself busy with? I kind of had that feeling a while before I started moving. Because for those who don't know, because I had to move, I took a bit of a break from streaming. And then when everything became a little bit more stabilized, I made an official return, which was, I think, not last week, the week before it. And now I'm kind of trying to see what can I do to reinvent it. Originally, I was going to just completely scrap the Trisscast in its entirety, because this is really hard to keep doing. It's really hard to find stuff to talk about to fill enough time. Because if I'm only doing this for 1 or 2 hours, then streaming-wise, what's the point? Like, I really enjoy streaming for a very long time. That's what makes me feel best about streaming, is when I can do it for an entire evening. Um, and if I want to do that, I need stuff to talk about, stuff to focus on, stuff to keep myself busy with. So originally, I was just going to scrap Trisscast. It's a lot of work. I mean, it's mostly a lot of prep. Like, I need to make sure that I have a list. I need to read up on enough topics that I can talk about them. Because if the only thing I've been busy with in a week is, you know, either personal stuff or just streaming in itself, there's not really something I can talk about on air. I need to find something else I can talk about. And I kind of noticed with a lot of my streaming, whenever new people enter in the channel or enter the chat, they either always come from another channel, like in a raid, or they come exclusively for the game. And that kind of resulted in this really difficult situation where my streams are honestly the best, they're the most fun, in my own opinion, when I'm talking to like some of the regulars in chat. When you know, the regulars are there and I can like have a wonderful conversation back and forth with chat. And kind of the difficult part is because people kept coming in who didn't know me yet, they weren't going to talk much, and because I don't think my commentary over the game itself is ever really that interesting, I really struggled to get people to come in and to stay long enough that I can have those kinds of conversations that I want to have on stream. And kind of the way that I'm trying to rectify that, I guess, is I want to do more talking focused content. So bringing back the Trisscast. I'm also going to bring back world building streams soon, mostly just because it makes the content more about my own personality. So it makes me a little bit more interesting on stream. And it's a little bit of a hunch, a little bit of an experiment, I guess. But it's we're gonna see how it works out. Hopefully, we don't crash and burn, but if we do, I'm sure we will cover. But the next point on the list, I've been when I returned to streaming, I did a Jedi Fallen Order stream, and I had so much fun with that stream. And I ended up making the decision, let's see if I can edit this. I think I just mostly just decided I want to look through it. I felt like I needed to put stuff on YouTube, and I was like, let's just go through it. I was originally going to edit it because I got a copyright claim for a tiny bit of audio that was like 6 hours in. And like I got that claim not on Twitch, but on YouTube when I put the archive up. And that in itself wasn't a big issue, but it kind of got to me because normally a very simple thing you can just do on YouTube is you can tell it to mute the audio in that section, and then you don't need to worry about like copyright claims and such. It usually isn't that big a deal. It just means that I can't monetize it myself, which I already can't because I don't have AdSense. And then YouTube will put ads over it, and the ad revenue goes to the claimant, which in my case is basically nothing. And while I didn't mind that much, I still felt like I should try and take as much copyright out whenever I can. Because it also means ads will now appear on the video, which I didn't want. But YouTube doesn't allow you to edit a video that's been uploaded if it's longer than 6 hours, and that was an 8-hour stream. So my idea was I will download the VOD, go to the part where I need to mute that section of audio, and then re-upload it. And it was while going through that VOD, because I just figured let's merge through the VOD a little bit more, and I really discovered like in this section there are a lot of really good jokes. Just in general, because of like the pace of the game itself and everything going on, made for a very comedic opening part. So I decided, what if I take this section and I edit it down into a video and then just see what I get. So I spent most of that evening editing, just kind of trying to figure it out. There were some genuine, like there's one section in there where I accidentally caused a glitch that I didn't know was possible, that caused an enemy that was scripted to die delayed. And that delayed death was just such good slapstick humor that like even now, whenever I look back at that specific clip, I burst out laughing. I love it so much. So I kind of took moments like that. I just in general, like parts that I thought were funny, I cut those down into a video. I might, if people are interested, go into like what the process is that I went through for editing that video. Because like I don't have any education or training. I don't even follow tutorials for editing. I downloaded a video editing program like ages ago for video essays. So I knew like the controls and the layouts of the app, but like that's all. And I kind of went through it all, and I went through it. I put it up on. I went through all the steps. I then send it over to a friend to kind of go like, what do you think of this? Does this seem interesting? And kind of based on that feedback, I know there were like a lot of points I needed to improve, but I had a beginning to what could be a very good video. So then I, the next day sat down, I think like that night I took like, this is up to when I want to edit. I cut that down into chunks. And then the next day I sat down and I went like, right, let's take these chunks that I've already picked and let's see, how do I want to edit these down? Like first off, what do I keep? What do I take away? Do I add anything? Do I change something up to make it spicier? For example, I went through all of the cutscenes and I cut them down and in the game it really works because it kind of creates this gravity to the scenes, but all the characters just have these long breaks between talking. And it makes for a very boring video. And it's just, I kind of cut through those, I made it quicker, because I figured if I keep those into the video, it will make everybody bored. So I went there, I cut things around a bit. I put drafts up on YouTube to test like how does this work. Got 2 moments where I use it. It flagged some of the audio as copyright claims. And I just did some more editing to remove, make sure that the audio was fine. And then when I had everything, I put it on YouTube. And I'm also now being informed that the guest is ready. So Hayden, when you're ready, you should have permissions. So can you join the stream chat voice call? And if you can't, join the waiting room on my own Discord.
Maybe I can, maybe I can't.
Apparently you can.
Hooray!
So everybody, welcome to the chat. Falco77, also known as Hayden, who runs a lovely channel here on Twitch as well. Do you want to introduce yourself?
I think you did a pretty good job of it yourself, but sorry, excuse me, I've not long finished dinner. Hi, I'm Hayden. I'm an autistic variety streamer on Twitch, content creator, and I work in TV.
Sounds like a wonderful introduction.
Yeah, that'll do.
It's
Short, sweet, to the point.
yeah. It's kind of a wonder that we haven't done a co-op stream yet.
Yes, it's one of those things that we should have done. We've just not gotten around to it yet.
Yeah. We might also need to look into like what can we do for videos or for games and such.
Yes,
Because it's like
absolutely.
I've been kind of thinking because like I really want to have guests on the Trisscast because I just feel like it's really needed. And like I've been kind of going through like the people I've had on stream. I had Rosa had Midi as a guest once.
Yep.
But that was like a very chill, relaxed stream. There wasn't really anything, deliberately nothing major. Then I had Oryx twice, who's also one of the mods, who also has like a really great conversation. And I've had Biggest twice, but it's a miracle I haven't had you on. Because based on the conversations we've had before, I'm confident that like something like this, the two of us could keep running for at least a year before we run out of things to talk about.
Oh, absolutely. It's just because like we always end up having in-depth conversations about things, or I will turn around one day and go, "Hey, I don't quite understand this. Can you explain this to me?" And we just end up going off on tangent after tangent after tangent after tangent. And as you said, we'd go on for about a year.
Yeah, at the very least, before we would need to bring in other guests, I feel we could cut like a year worth of weekly 3-hour podcasts if we had to.
That sounds like hell for you to have to put up with me for that long.
I mean, you've been subbed to my channel for 6 months, so like I feel like I've got some practice in.
Yes, and I'm going to repeat the message I put out, which is Triss is valid. Pass it on.
Wasn't in time to mute you, unfortunately.
Aha!
But yeah, it is great to have you on. We really need to look for like what else can we do.
Indeed.
But yeah, I am one of the topics I wrote down because I thought it would be really interesting to talk about. Because part of why I want to have creators on, which was part of the original vision, was to kind of talk about the work other people do, you know, on and offline, but what people put out into the world. And I would happen to know you have done a lot of production work that you're very, very proud of and should talk about.
Excellent segue. Excellent segue. Yeah, no, I do a fair bit of. I'm a bit of an. I hesitate to use the word generalist because I'm not quite there yet, but I do have quite a broad skill set when it comes to content creation and all around technical knowledge. So I sort of cross quite a few disciplines in not just online content creation, but in TV as well, which is sort of my main domain. And I find that my streaming on Twitch and my TV knowledge and working in TV, they both feed into each other, and it helps me generate more creative ideas and new ways to sort of build that up.
Yeah. Awesome. You also ended up producing for a Rocket League tournament.
I did.
With the host from Subpar in HD.
Yeah, Subpar but in HD. Yes, Cole and Stumpy. They are two very, very good friends of mine who I've met actually through work. And after months and months of begging and pleading, I said yes to doing it. But no, in all seriousness, we've worked with each other for what must be 2, maybe 3 years now, and we just get on like house on fire, and it's to the point where I've built their computers. I've built and rebuilt computers for them. I've helped them out with various technical difficulties they've had in streaming and in other stuff as well. And it's just been quite an entertaining process working with them because they're just good. They're just a good laugh to be around. But getting the opportunity to produce their community Rocket League tournament, TRRLCS or Team Rocket League Championships. No, that's not what it stands for. But that's neither here nor there.
Now
It
I
was
have
quite.
to Google it.
You probably won't find it. If you do, I will be surprised. I think it's Team Rocket League casted sub games. But yeah, getting to produce that was quite a coup for me in terms of just having the opportunity to do it. I think I agreed to do it with about a week or so of prep time. So
Yeah, it was very quick.
yes, the turnaround on it was quite quick, and I had a couple of ideas that I wanted to pan out. So I did a few things. I got a hold of a bunch of their old clips from previous tournaments, spliced them together into like a highlight opening reel, which I actually embedded into their countdown as well. And people found it quite amusing and they enjoyed it. The bit that I was a little bit cheeky with one thing though. So for the TV channel I work for, Cole and Stumpy had a show on it called the Daily Download, and the show has since is no longer running at the moment, and so there were some assets laying about at work that were no longer being used. One of them being for a little quote unquote trolley quiz show that Stumpy would spring on Cole every once in a while, and how can I say this? Acquired my own copies of these assets, and
Ooh.
I actually put them into the broadcast and used them for my own little quiz of their bit, which was quite funny. And yeah, people loved it. It was like these little bits where I just every so often they'd be chatting away in between games, and then all of a sudden in their ears they just hear me go, "Listen, listen, listen, stat track," and then that would be the cue for the game. But yeah, that was quite fun, and having to learn how to run it all in OBS was it wasn't as steep a learning curve as I was worried it was going to be, so it was quite easy to pick up. I did make some errors, but they were funny, so it worked.
Yeah, I mean, what's quality content without at least a few technical difficulties?
Exactly, and I did make a magnificent technical difficulties screen in preparation. It wasn't
Yeah,
quite the one I wanted though. There's a bit of a story behind that. So the one I did want was Stumpy's had a picture that was the header of his Twitter for years. Now, if you've ever seen Stumpy,
I have not.
he is quite a tall lad. I believe he's about 6'6".
That's
Um,
indeed very tall. That's taller than
yes.
me.
However, if you ask him in centimeters, he'll get quite grumpy because it's 199.
Of course.
Yep. So he's a little bit grumpy about that. But there's a picture of him where he's in a bath um, with his legs up and legs sticking out because he is just so long. And it's like it's that pose of like hand over the mouth, like when like if you walk in and catch someone in the bath kind of thing, and you catch them by surprise, but playful, if you know what I mean, like the pin-up pose
Yeah.
basically. And the original technical difficulties bit I wanted was to have that picture and on the side of the bath written, "Oops, you weren't meant to see this."
To be fair, not a bad technical difficulty screen.
I know the thing is, I now have that picture, so that's next time.
It just wasn't ready in time.
No, it wasn't. Stumpy had to track it down, and I went I went trawling through his Twitter, but he got himself banned at one point, so everything before the ban date sort
Ooh,
of disappeared.
sounds like there's a story in that as well.
Uh, Probably quite unlikely. I think he might have said something that somebody took issue with, like somebody was just annoyed by it because it's like one of the great things about Cole and Stumpy is they're very good, very accepting lads. Like in fact, whenever they reported on a story and it involved racism, like they they're sort of very irreverent thing, and it might come across as light-hearted, but what they're saying is quite simple. And their answer to everything involving racism is literally just don't be racist. It's that easy, which it is. And been very very accepting of people in their community. So having that sort of level of wholesomeness, odds are they'd tick off a couple of people, and I guess someone took umbrage at something at one point.
Yeah, potentially.
Yeah. This was a couple of years ago, though, so I can't remember exactly what the reason for the ban was. I've slept
Yeah,
since then.
fair. I was just hoping it would lead to like this really epic tale. But
Unfortunately, not.
what a shame. What a shame. But yeah, just in general, for anybody who doesn't know, Hayden is a wizard with technology. Like, genuinely can get anything working on anything.
I'm not quite there yet. Not quite there yet. Like I've jokingly like I say
Fake
I'm
it
not
till you
quite a
make it,
general.
Hayden. Fake it till you make it.
I say I'm not a generalist, but I prefer to refer to myself as a technomancer, and
Fair.
I actually have a couple of bits of broken electronics kicking around, which I'm keeping to one side to teach myself to repair.
Ooh.
Because if I break it during repair, then I still have a broken bit of kit. It just means it will go to the bin, so there's no
Yeah,
loss there.
yeah.
And then once I successfully bring something back and it works, I'm going to upgrade my. I'm going to promote myself from technomancer to what is it? Techromancer.
Tech romancer.
Yes, like a necromancer, but tech.
It sounds like you want a romance tech. I was like, isn't Louise okay with that?
I mean, look, what me and technology have a special relationship. Why do you think I get it working all the time? I give it the good loving, okay?
As long as your girlfriend doesn't mind. I think she's the only one
Uh,
who has a right to complain.
yeah, probably. She'll throw something at me later,
Undoubtedly.
undoubtedly. But yeah, yeah. Tech's just one of the things I just have a thing for, and it's one of the things that people always look at me and they sort of like, how the hell do you just know this stuff off the cut, just off the back of your hand, kind of thing. And the most honest answer I have is, I made all the same mistakes as you. I've just learned.
Fair. Did I ever tell you, by the way, that when I was still in college studying for game design, I made by myself, within I think we had 2 weeks, a custom controller that was
Ooh,
going to be paired with the game that our team made.
right.
We had a rhythm game, so I made my own drum pads that were
That's
capable of
pretty cool.
registering input and sending it to the PC.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, it was
Right.
absolutely horrendous because it was just I didn't have time to like work the cables properly. So it was a pressure sensor, specifically a piezo sensor, glued between two CDs
Mhm.
with a mouse pad on both sides glued to the CDs to act as cushioning.
Right.
And then if you hit it in the middle, it registers a hit and um, sends it to an Arduino board. And that board then sends it over as key presses to the PC.
See, this is the part where you start to reach into the realms of technology that I have no dominion over, and you do. So
Yeah,
I always get fascinated when you start talking coding stuff to me, because I know enough about coding to kind of loosely follow the conversation, but I wouldn't be able to have any definitive input on it
yeah.
because my coding ability is slightly higher than zero.
I mean, yeah, I have a sense for programming where if it's like I can't do like high professional work, of course. Otherwise, I
Yeah.
would be doing that and not streaming.
Yeah.
Because
I
it
mean,
pays so much better.
and
Um,
as you say, this is an unprofessional stream, isn't it?
it is super unprofessional. Nothing I do is ever professional, and that's a guarantee and a threat.
The guarantee and the threat. I'm going to steal that to use at work.
But no, I know enough about coding that like if I know, typically I know if I want to do something, how it would look in pseudocode to get there, And that's enough that I'm able to look it up. As long as it's
Yeah,
not like super in-depth stuff. Um,
I mean,
because it's like the one skill that's really important is being able to read pseudocode.
yeah, the pseudocode is basically code that doesn't quite work, but
Yeah,
it's
it's
sort of sketch out what you want it to do.
it's more like human written like instructions that kind of form an abstract version of code.
Yeah,
Um, kind of the important aspect of it is pseudocode doesn't follow any actual rules. It's literally
yeah,
just um, whatever you just nail out the basics, like a sketch, like a storyboard. Um,
yeah.
but it's
So
just you want to, yeah.
yeah, it sounds quite similar to how I handle editing work, because in the sense of like I will get a rough cut of an edit together, and then if there's something particular I want to do with that edit, I'll go away and look up tutorials if I don't know how to do it.
That's actually potentially a very interesting topic, like how we edit works, because like as I mentioned a bit ago, I have no education in editing. Nobody taught me, not even any tutorials. I just downloaded a program and got to work with it.
Yeah. I mean, whereas I was taught at university how to edit on Avid Media Composer for 3 years, which is literally industry standard software for both film and TV. And
Nice.
then I got hold of the Adobe Suite several years ago, and I've been teaching myself bits from that. But it's like a lot people make a lot of misconceptions about editing that you can that it's something you can learn or be taught. I highly disagree with that, actually. And in fact, I wasn't even particularly taught how to edit at university. What happened was we would watch films and we would discuss the editing, and it wasn't just like modern film. It was old films as well. In fact, we watched a silent film called Broken Blossoms, which if you go away and watch it, I will warn you, it is very much a product of its time. Um, be aware of that going in, as some of the language used isn't.
I
It was
already forgot the
acceptable.
name of the movie, so don't worry.
Yeah, Broken Blossoms. It was like aside from like obviously the language of the time. Um, it was a very interesting film to watch from an editorial perspective, because silent film back then was it would have a filmed out scene and then it would use title cards to
Yeah,
contextualize and also get speech across. And when in silent film, you work mainly off body language. Um, but then we would watch a bunch of films. In fact, there is a film I would highly recommend everybody go watch called Let the Right One In, which is a vampire film. Um, Beyond that, I will not tell you anything further. Just go watch it. But we watched a bunch of these films, all sorts of films. We also watched music videos as well, and we just discussed editing in a way, because it's less about how you edit. It's less about how to edit. It's how you edit, which sounds
yeah,
really weird.
because that's like my one criticism I had of what you said earlier. I disagree. I believe everything can be taught. However, um, we have, especially I noticed this in the West, we have this really just odd and nonsensical idea of what teaching is. Because we have this sense, like we're just so teaching is when you sit down, someone talks to you, you write down everything they say, and then you know it. And that's not how you learn anything.
Yeah,
Like
which
genuinely, even if you're very good at school and you're saying, "Oh, I learned everything that way," that's not actually how you learned it. That's just something that helped you get there.
yeah,
But it's
and
through doing and understanding and thinking on it.
yeah, and at university, that's exactly what we did, because we were also because we there would be certain parts of films that would be picked out, and we would analyze the edit, and we would be like, why did they go from this shot to this shot? What's this? What's that? And the conversation would get us thinking, and we'd then read into the subtext of the films and sort of get those ideas down. And it then became a case of going away and watching films from an analytical perspective and thinking, how do I get that edit to do what? Do this? How do I get this to do that? And then what you do is, hell, we weren't even taught how to use the editing software that much, and a lot of it came down to, just trying things out and experimenting. So there was a technique I told you about the other day called a J cut.
Yeah.
Now, anybody here who's listening to this probably has no idea what a J cut is, but I guarantee you've
Unless
seen
you've
it.
watched Scanline.
Yep, or you've watched some, or if you edit yourself. If you're if you're not a content creator or an editor, then you will have seen a J cut at least once. And what a J cut is when you have a bit of footage going. Say, for example, you have someone talking on camera, they're talking to the camera, they stop talking, and then you hear sound that isn't happening on screen, and then about up to a second later, it cuts to another shot, and then the audio makes sense to you. It's a way of leading into another shot. And it can also be used tactically to sort of cover little footage that doesn't quite match properly. And
Fair.
it's those
Real
little,
quick in
yeah,
between.
it's those.
Hello, Kate. Hope your breakfast burrito ad was very good, I guess.
Morning, Kate. But yeah, so it's then you learn a lot of these techniques as and how you go, and it helps you with developing a story. So it's I don't think I think it's weird. Like, you can be taught how to edit in a mechanical sense. You can be taught this is how you cut, this is how you blend, this is that. But I believe everybody has their own editing style. Everybody gets inspired by things and they want to try things, and that's how they work. So for me at the moment, I've been inspired by a YouTuber by the name of Joe Hickson, and I watched his videos, and his videos made me get my old camera out that I haven't touched in about 3, maybe 4 years, and I actually started doing photography again, and then started filming with it, and now I'm editing my own footage to do my own little projects with. Even if I never put them out, it's stuff that I can learn on.
Yeah.
And it's then from that you then become aware that editing as a whole is there's a lot more to it than just cutting footage together. And
Yeah.
but for now, we'll sort of let that breathe a moment and let that sink in, because I suspect you have some more questions before I derail you.
No, I was just honestly like, because we're gonna go on tangents the entire time, so it's fine. Like, my brain's trying to keep up. Um, I just think, like, in general, like, the reason I mentioned like I don't have any like education or being taught in editing is because most people, when they're taught, they're kind of taught this is how you start doing this. This is how you take the basics, and they kind of, people tend to take those basics and kind of follow along, and then eventually from there start diverging into their own direction.
Yeah.
But most people still kind of start with like a base essence, and I don't at all. And because of that, I'm very curious how much my editing process like lines up with how other people do it.
Okay. Sorry, I was gonna pull a video out, because one of the things I did when I was at university was we did something called montage editing, which was something that which is a technique. So, like, everybody knows what a montage is. If you've seen Rocky, you know what a montage is. The old training
Yeah.
montage. But a montage is just a load of footage spliced together to tell a story. And one of the things and for an assignment, I hasten to add, for an assignment, um, our lecturer gave us access to a bunch of random footage. Like, there was stuff from films called Koyaanisqatsi, and a few other films that I had no idea what they were. and we we were basically told, here's some footage, tell a story with it. And I racked my brain over it quite a bit, and then I found some little tricks using opacity and that kind of thing, which let me mix footage together. And what I ended up coming up with was almost a self-reflective look at editing, because in a simple space, if we're looking at film or a TV show, when you edit, your objective is to manipulate your audience. You have to manipulate them into a feeling a certain way. You have to manipulate them into reacting.
Yeah,
And you can do that in a whole number of ways, using sound effects, using music, using shots, using specific lighting or a color grade. Hell,
hypnosis,
even yeah, hell,
very
even
strong
camera angles.
drugs.
Stop it, you. Um, and you get to that, and what will happen is uh, once you get those reactions out of people, you'll get hello B.
Of course, you're
You'll
into
be
hypnosis, B. Of course, you are.
oh dear. Um, so yeah, like I'm trying to think of a good example here. But I think what I ended up doing was my initial cuts in the project were a bit janky and a bit non-fluid, but then as you got through the edit, they smoothed out and they started to work in, and I wanted to create this sense of unease to begin with, right up until the end. And I picked out a great track as well to go with it, and it all just worked perfectly. And off the back of that, I also learned about cutting in time with music, which just amplifies an edit even further beyond. And that's a good skill to have, being able to montage edit and edit to music.
Yeah, that actually reminds me. I did actually work on like a film project in middle school.
Yeah.
Um, it was for our arts and culture class, and it was such a horrible project. I love it. Because I got to do it with two friends who have, like at the time, had a very similar um, sense of humor of mine, where we just wanted to make it as absurd as possible and as over the top.
Yeah.
Um, and like we wanted it to seem as if we were trying to be serious, but nothing about it was serious. So
Yeah.
the plot of it basically was um, that like one of the friends would be the main role and he was just late for class and would have to get to class on time and would just constantly be stopped by all kinds of random stuff. Like I
Yeah.
think I can't remember how we got our hands on it, but we got our hands on this like very large plushie. Um, and I think it was like a Snorlax plushie, so we made it a Pokemon fight scene in the middle where he just runs up to the plushie, takes it, and throws it off screen. And then in order to, part of the joke was we didn't make any scene consistent with the last one. So running,
Yeah.
I had to run off to get that Pokemon plushie back. Um, but then you see me in the background running in the wrong direction and then running back in the wrong direction again when I have it. Um, every single scene after that point, somewhere in the background has that plushie stuffed away, and like all kinds of things like that. And then arriving at the class, like right as the class ends, and like the bell rings, and like we spent like an entire afternoon making that, and it was genuinely just so stupid. I loved it.
I mean, that's part of the fun. Like, it doesn't have to be any form of coherence as long as you're having fun with it.
Yeah,
And
that's the fun part.
that, yeah, exactly. That's the way to do it. And when I was like learning a lot of this stuff, in fact, one of our early projects was we had to um what was it? We had to shoot um a film and we put it together, and we then had to edit it. It wasn't until partway through that we realised that the best take we had, the actor had the wrong inflection on a word, but in one of the takes we didn't use, he had the correct inflection. So I spent
Ooh.
about half an hour picking out a single syllable from an audio waveform.
You've talked about this before, yeah. And
Yeah,
like,
and I grafted it onto the good take, and it worked. It was perfect. And it's to date, it's still one of the best edits I've ever done.
of course it is.
Excuse me one moment, Triss. I just need to grab something. I will be right back.
Okay, I'll just have to try and keep everyone, the ravenous masses in chat entertained while you're gone. But oh, that completely caught me off guard. I have no idea what to talk about. I guess I'll just quickly go through my own the editing process I use for my own video, because that way
Ah,
Hayden can just cut into the conversation whenever.
hi.
And oh, you're back already. Okay.
Yeah, I wasn't going to be long.
Yeah, fair. So the editing process that I use wasn't literally just I took because Jedi Fallen Order is a very stage-based Metroidvania
Yeah,
where every planet kind of acts as its own world, its own stage um, that you can explore and get collectibles on and everything. I just chose to edit them one planet at a time. So I first did the opening planet, and the first half hour, I accidentally had the game audio on the wrong audio track. So for those who don't know, Twitch only deals with copyright on the VODs, not on the actual live streams. Meaning, if you separate your audio tracks, any music you play on a track that doesn't show up on your VOD, you can't get a copyright strike for. So I always have one of those tracks which I use for my opening music and such, because while I try and stick to royalty-free music, sometimes I can't really find something royalty-free, or I use a royalty-free playlist and I still get clipped by it. What sometimes happen is royalty-free music samples are reused in licensed work, and it's used in licensed work, and then the elements of the royalty-free song are still, by the detection algorithms, are tricked into thinking that it's the licensed song. And like, if you want to actually try and contest that, you have to put forward a legal argument, which I really don't want to do, because I would need to prove like how they've like gotten it wrong, and that's a lot of work. That can be a lot of work to actually get through, and I don't have time for that.
yeah, and copyright claims on YouTube are notoriously difficult to deal with at the best of times because YouTube's copyright system relies entirely on copyright claimants acting in good faith.
Yeah,
And a lot of the time, and I swear to God, I'm looking at you, WMG, those copyright claims are in bad faith.
yeah,
And hell, anybody, in fact, there was a musician, a guy who does a lot of EDM called the Fat Rat. He put out a track, and it had been out for like a couple of years, and he was literally the creator, the copyright holder. Somebody copyright claimed it on YouTube, and he went to YouTube over it, and they basically said, "Well, he says he owns it. There's nothing we can do because the onus isn't on." Because literally, if you then counterclaim a copyright claim, it then is down. If the other person then says no, they're lying, then that's fine. There's no onus to produce proof that they created it.
yeah. Do you know why?
Because YouTube are idiots using a modified DMCA system that's not fit for purpose.
Point one, idiot is an ableist term. Point number two, Tom Scott has a very good video on it because YouTube will absolutely be sued to oblivion if they didn't use this system.
Yeah, but then surely at this point,
Like, no, like I get your point, but like YouTube cannot fight those ego battles.
agreed. But the problem there is that they are basically letting people abuse copyright law because they're using a system in bad faith.
I mean, yeah, I mean anybody who uses that system in bad faith can be caught out on it. And while
But
I
then,
think they should be checking for like the proof that it's owned, um, in those situations, what YouTube would expect you to do, which is because of the issue here, like how do I say this? Like Tom Scott's video title is, the issue is in no way with YouTube. The issue is with the fact that we have such horrible copyright laws.
okay, yeah, that's part of the issue because DMCA is an absolute Charlie Foxtrot of nonsense. It's not up to date. It's not built for this modern age. Thanks, Metallica, by the way, for screwing over. And I'm so glad that their own music got copyrighted because of what they did with their system. Because a lot of the reason the DMCA system is the way it is because of Metallica taking on Napster back in the day when music piracy was in its infancy.
Yeah.
And that behavior is what has led to the situation we're in now.
Yeah, and also just in general, like massive corporations want to invest into making copyright always favor the corporations because that's how they make money. And because we live in a liberal capitalist society, politicians tend to want to cater to corporations because that's the ones who sponsor them the most.
Thing is, though, like in doing this, the companies are actually shooting themselves in the foot because, and there was a study done on this several years ago, and I don't remember where the study was, but the general upshot of it was that people who pirated were actually more likely to buy the music later. Like,
Yeah,
sure, they pirate it at the time, but then sooner or later they'd buy the music, and that would be more likely than somebody who didn't pirate it because, well,
yeah.
simply because they would eventually want to support the artist. It's
Here's
almost like the trial run.
here's the thing though. Corporations notoriously are really bad at focusing on long-term effects.
Yes.
That's just how corporations work. Corporations always tend to go for like what brings us the profit now. And they almost never focus on what's good for the long term. That's why we still have climate change. Because literally 100 years ago, scientists were saying, hey, we need to stop this now. We can, we have the means to. And
But the
corporations
corporations are
said,
like,
but it
no
won't earn
money.
its money. And it's actually very likely that very soon it will cause massive economic crashes because of the massive impacts this will have on everyday life. It already is
Hold up,
having.
hold up. I need to correct you there. Massive impact on our lives, not the people who've earned the money and don't care.
Yeah, but it will still have economic effects.
True. But ultimately, we will be the ones who feel it.
Yeah, always. Working class always are the ones who end up feeling it.
Yeah.
Which is why the proletariat needs to rise up and get rid of our chains.
How did I know that in the course of this podcast I would end up in this level of conversation with you? I knew
Because
it was going to happen.
because I always do. No, I'm actually of the opinion. I'm very strong on this opinion, and I know a lot of people who I know tend to push back whenever I mention this. The biggest scam any content creator has ever told is never talk about politics. And it's the biggest scam you can ever be told. Now, there is some truth to this, and that is, I'm not going to sit here and go in depth about like the details of everything going wrong in the world because that's going to depress everybody, and it's very important that we keep our morale up. it's important that we get to take breaks from heavy topics, that we get to relax ourselves, that we get to feel good and do things because they are good to us. That's very important. Like from a political aspect, from like a life aspect, from a mental health aspect. But the biggest lie we're ever told is that you need to be a centrist in everything when you're presenting publicly. Because if you have political opinions on stuff, then it's just going to alienate people. But the people to alienate are people who you want to alienate. Because if you are not a toxic person, most likely your politics will reflect that. And the people who are not going to want to be in your community because you're expressing that are those toxic people who just want you to shut up about politics. Because if you don't talk about politics, they can openly dog whistle all the toxic and bigoted stuff without anybody being able to say anything against it.
Thing is, it's not the fact that they don't want. It's not the fact that they want you to stop talking about politics. It's they want you to stop talking about your politics, the ones they disagree with.
It's the most fun take you can see online is I've genuinely seen this. Somebody, okay, kind of set the scene. Twitter, of course. Random name, bunch of numbers.
Yep.
Tweet itself. I really can't stand all of this politics in modern games. Why can't games be like they used to be and not do any of this political shit? Profile picture. Screenshot from Fallout 2.
Oh, I'm sorry. Hold up. Hold the literal. Yeah. Oh, sorry. You don't want games to have politics in like the old days. Oh, yes. Like Fallout isn't a social commentary on nuclear nuclear armaments.
No,
Like,
it's explicitly about capitalism.
yeah. And also
Not even
nuclear
that much about the bombs. The bombs don't matter, right? Like, yeah, in the newer ones by Bethesda, because honestly, Bethesda is not good at post-apocalyptic stuff. I'm very open to say this.
Well, no, because all Bethesda do is they wheel out Todd Howard every now and then and just get him to go.
Yeah.
It just works, and then they wheel him off
I mean,
stage again.
Fallout 3 and 4 are pretty good games from what I played of them and seen of them. Like, they're not bad games, but they are not good post-apocalyptic games because they don't understand the post-apocalyptic genre. It's like the games are just like nuclear bomb bad, radiation bad. Look at how bad all of this is. But in the original Fallout games, and we see this reflected too in New Vegas, it's like all about rebuilding after it. And a very big topic of it is how, what ultimately led to that downfall. And that's kind of why we see things like the Enclave, which are, representing the shady, like the Red Scare McCarthyism side of the US government. We see
Yeah.
the new California Republic, which is like trying to be the US as Americans see it. How American citizens think the US is. That's what the NCR is trying to be. And then by New Vegas, we see that they are kind of shit at what they're doing. Because, like, I don't know how much of New Vegas you played, but, like...
None. I've never played a Fallout game.
Yeah. And so the NCR and the first two games are set in California. So the NCR is created there as a faction, which is just
Right.
this republic that's trying to be like the revival of the US government. And in New Vegas, which takes place in the Mojave Wasteland, which is near the Vegas area, the NCR expands eastward into there. And it's very much treated like a colony in the sense that like resources are spread thin. They don't have the means to keep everything under control. It kind of like creates a situation where the people aren't really allowed to take care of themselves. They have to rely on the NCR, but the NCR isn't capable of providing for them. So if the NCR wasn't there and the people could do their own thing, it would be totally fine. But because they need to follow the NCR's way of doing things, and the NCR can't really help them, it kind of makes everything worse for them. They get into constant fights. They put on laws that make the population nearby very unhappy because they feel, pressured to support a NCR that's spreading itself thin and not able to really handle its own expansion. And it's kind of falling into all of those traps that America itself, keeps doing wrong, keeps like expanding outward because it thinks it's saying like it's the right thing to do when it's really not. And it's just an excuse to grab resources for themselves. Because there are resources in the Mojave Wasteland. It's one of the most best preserved regions in the post-apocalyptic US in the Fallout setting. And basically everything the NCR gets goes back to California. It doesn't get pumped back into the people who live there.
Yeah, which is basically just the general upshot of most American foreign policy. Does it have resources we can pillage? Yes, let's invade it.
Exactly. And I think New Vegas is very interesting because it reveals so much about people's politics.
Yeah.
And it's so interesting to see. I don't think you will understand the term chuds.
No.
Okay, let's say gamer TM. Like people, the kind of people who are into Gamergate, for who gaming is the one and only personality trait.
Right.
Who treat gaming as like a no-go zone out. Technically a separate group from chuds, but there's a lot of overlap. To see them, so there are 4 factions in New Vegas. This is a massive tangent, but I don't care. There are 4 factions in New Vegas. The NCR, which is kind of presented as the good option, but like I mentioned, has a lot of skeletons in its closets and is not as good as it is trying to be and claiming it is. Caesar's Legion, which is basically just a bunch of people LARPing as the Roman Empire, who are objectively like kind of horrible. Like they have slavery, they like crucify people just to terrify everyone.
Right.
Like they're just shitty. You have Mr. House, who is a person from before the Great War, who predicted that the bombs were going to be dropped and created a like point defense system that was capable of defending New Vegas. He put himself in like this machine to preserve himself for like all the way up to when the game actually takes place. And then the 4th faction is a reprogrammed robot called Yes Man, who basically does whatever is asked of him, and you can therefore use to take over control of the wasteland by yourself. And it's so interesting to see how people go into those discussions to like understand how the game or like how politics work. Because like the people who tend to go for the NCR are people who just can't look more than like a layer deep into stuff. They just go, yes, democracy, yes, like Republic, US, they must be the good guys, right? And then it's revealed that there's actually like a lot going on and they just don't really know how to compute it, so they ignore it.
Yeah.
And ironically, people who think the Legion is doing a good job is for some reason a thing. Like people who unironically think that like bringing back slavery and such and a society in which women are not valued would make things better. And they have all kinds of arguments that never make sense until you realize it's just because they're bigots. They just want bigotry.
So yeah, I've sort of seen something a bit like that, but more in real life. So this is going to be quite an extreme tangent, but stick with it. If I say the name Elliot Rodger, you know who I'm on about, right?
Yep.
Yeah. So basically, incel, and all around dickhead.
I mean, yeah, he's the face of incels. He's the hero of all incels.
Yeah. Not long after he committed his atrocity, there was the BBC created a documentary
Of course,
on
it's the fucking
himself.
BBC.
Say again?
Of course, it's the fucking BBC.
Yes, and for the thirsty ones among you, I mean British Broadcasting House, not British Broadcasting Corporation, not the other thing.
Hey, you're the one who brought it up. It's on your mind.
Yeah, I know, but I know there's thirsty people in chat. Um, so, the documentary was actually very, very interesting, and it sort of did an overview on. It introduced it, and then they spoke to three people. What is it? There had been a guy who there were three people. I'm going to start with last to first. The last one was a guy who who classified himself as an incel, but not because it was anything to do with women, but because he himself was on the autistic spectrum and found it difficult to interact and engage with women, and he just classified that because not because the women did anything wrong, but because he acknowledged that he wasn't able to communicate effectively. Then there was another guy who I think was a former incel who had turned himself around and spoke a bit. But it was the first guy they showed who was a real. I can't accurately describe this man. The only thing I can say about him is he just made my skin crawl. He made me very uncomfortable. His he was like full bore women in the wrong, all sorts of things, and he wandered around with like face masks these days that we've
Yeah.
been wearing to keep each other safe in the pandemic. He this was before pandemic. He was wearing one of those with like a hole cut out over his mouth. And it just looked weird. And as he was talking about, his whole plan in life was to catfish women, and then when he rocks up to meet them and they left, he would be the one who was quote unquote exposing them because they only went for because they thought went for like attractive, like classically attractive men or something. And I'm just sat there like, dude, you lied to them and catfished them.
Yeah,
What are
it's
you
like
doing here?
it's
And
also like if somebody's already willing to lie and catfish, what more are they willing to do?
yeah, but the real thing was that there was a bit where he spoke, and you can tell that as he was verbalizing his thought processes in his head, two and two was slowly coming together, and he was just on the cusp of realizing what he was doing, and then he broke away from it, and it was just like it was so weird. Like I just find that kind of logic like I don't understand how somebody gets to that point in life. But I guess that's
Indoctrination.
radicalization. Yeah,
Yeah,
indoctrination and
radicalization and indoctrination.
radicalization. But it's just like, how do you even get there in the first? Like, how did somebody ever get to that point?
Have you ever watched the video on the PewDiePie line or the PewDiePie pipeline?
No, because because like I used to. So Louise and I used to watch PewDiePie many years ago until he stopped doing gaming content, and then after that point, we noticed him starting to go off the rails, and we were just like, yeah, no, none of this, please.
Yeah,
Um,
it's like my personal stance on it. I don't know if he is a Nazi. I don't care if he is. Nazis think he is, and Nazis love him. That's
yeah,
more
I
than
don't.
enough.
But the thing is, I don't understand how a content creator goes from playing horror games and screaming and having a fun time to like being a right wing. What's the word I'm looking for?
Right wing influencer.
Yeah, let's go with that. That works. I don't understand how somebody goes from point A to point B like that. Like, in fact, no, it's not even point B. It's like you have to go through about 30 other stops before you even get to that second point. I just
Um,
don't understand that.
yeah, I think a um kind of a big part about it is like it is a gradual process, but basically, what will happen is the way how Nazis radicalize people, and there's a really good video on this. Actually, two really good videos on this I want to send you. One of which I might send you later sometime. Or I might just send you actually the reaction of it because it's a really good video on how the alt-right works. And I saw from another streamer a reaction on that, which was somebody who went down that pipeline and actually recovered from it, but in a way that I think is very sincerely, because a lot of people grift about that. I must say, giving a very sincere sense of like this is like how it got me. This is where it got me, and like really things you wouldn't think are related. Because what Nazis will do is, in order to try and get people, they will try and enter an already existing community. And they will, at first they will talk about normal stuff. But here's the thing, right? Hayden, I'm gonna ask you first. I'm gonna ask you two questions. First
Uh-oh.
question: can you say I hate Nazis?
Well, yes, because I do hate Nazis.
Yeah, good. Second, is it a would you consider that statement of yours to be political?
I'm going to say yes and no.
Yeah, because
You do.
yeah, it is because you're talking about like politics, but also
Yeah,
no, because everybody agrees, right?
yeah.
Everybody knows.
Basically, like if you ever get to a point in your life where you start thinking, where if you ever start thinking like the Nazis had right ideas and things,
Yeah.
immediately go check yourself in with a psychological expert because
Nope.
dear God,
Nope.
something's
Nope.
not
Nope.
right.
Nope. There is
No?
no relation to mental health and political views. Genuinely,
No, it
that's
wasn't.
that's
It
a
wasn't
very
intended as a.
no 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 no. Genuinely, just for a second, that's a very stigmatizing statement, and psychologists can't de-radicalize you. I mean,
Fair.
technically they can. They can cut you off from the internet, but that would require hospitalizing you.
Yeah,
Um,
wasn't intended as a mental health comment.
well,
It
when you
was
say psychologist, it is.
okay. Fair enough. It wasn't intended in that regard.
Yeah.
But
I mean, I'm calling you out because I know that I can call you out, and you can learn
yes,
from it.
yes. Like it's more like if you're thinking that, then clearly you've stumbled across. Then clearly you've stumbled on a train of thought that is not healthy. So
Then
it's
clearly you
something
are
that
being radicalized
exactly,
into an extremist ideology.
exactly. So
But
what you should do is you should breach
here's where the
those
analogy is going.
immediately.
Here's where the analogy is going, because you're
Yeah.
kind of going in a different direction.
Yes.
So we agree that saying I hate Nazis, something we both feel very comfortable and easy to say,
Yes.
is not political.
Correct.
Now, logically speaking, if something is not political, saying the reverse is not political either. Because clearly anybody who would ever like talk positively about the Nazis, they must be joking. That's just sarcasm, right?
No, you can't risk that.
Yep, and that's where it happens. Because people will start ironically talking about how much they love Nazis. And of
Yeah.
course, it's not political, they're just being ironic.
It reminds me
And then it
of
gets normalized.
yeah, the whole political bit. It reminds me, and you saying about people not wanting politics in their video games. I remember when Wolfenstein 2 was released recently, and somebody got pissed off because the Nazis were in it, and like your role was to kill Nazis, and they were just like, "Herder, why have they got all these politics in my game?" And I'm just sat there like, this is a game about killing Nazis. This should be literally everybody's favorite game on the
Yeah.
planet.
I actually I saw a Jacob Ganner video on that on that series about how it's like, because if you don't know, Jacob Ganner is a leftist video essayist who mostly does like media analysis,
Hmm.
who is also himself Jewish. And he did a video on Wolfenstein like about how like explicitly Jewish the story is in so many ways.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I mean, I will have to watch that video because the Wolfenstein games are a set of games I really enjoy,
Yeah.
and as well, I found it quite. I also found the portrayal of women in Wolfenstein quite refreshing.
Hmm.
Have you ever played Wolfenstein or are interested in playing them at all?
Probably not.
Okay, so
Not into shooters, so
fair. So the upshot is that in the course of the first Wolfenstein game, the main character is rendered um, infirm for decades for like actually no, not decades, but a few years um, in a hospital, and he is tended to by a doctor and his daughter, and I think they're both Polish.
okay.
Yeah, and as you go through the story, what I was expecting was because like you could see like the romance developing between the daughter and the main character, like it was gonna happen. Like there was no two ways about it. It was gonna happen. So
Yeah.
I was sat there waiting for, oh, she's gonna be the damsel in distress. She's gonna be portrayed as useless, yada yada yada, and it never came.
Hmm.
She ended up being quite arguably one of the most badass female characters I've ever had the joy of witnessing in a video game, and
Nice.
and that carries on into the second game. There is a scene in the second game where you have to infiltrate a Nazi airship, and she goes with you, and she's quite heavily pregnant, and I'm there the whole time, like, please, game, don't just kill her to make a point. Please don't kill her to make a point. Like, I was actively terrified for this character
It's
because
what
the
most
whole
games
time
would have done.
because yeah, it's what most games would have done. No, this woman, heavily pregnant, is running around with an assault rifle, and at one point mows down like 4 or 5 soldiers solo in a hail of gunfire while she's screaming and getting covered in blood, and I'm just like, that's good. But it was just like it was a nice refreshing change to it would have been because like in any other story, or well, in the majority of stories, it would have been, oh, she's pregnant, you shove her to one side to just be pregnant woman for a while. No, she was
Yeah.
actively doing things.
Yeah, or it's like, um, if they're not shoved off to the side, they're killed off to make a point, like you said.
Yeah.
But yeah, it is really nice to see when like a show or a game or anything is like kind of willing to subvert that.
Yeah. And I'm going back to your point to sort of like you mentioning how politics sort of devolved in the later Fallout games. Skyrim as well sort of ever so gently flirted with politics because like one of the main points around it was you had the Stormcloaks of Skyrim who are like Skyrim for the Nords kind of thing versus the Imperials who are sort of like a multiracial group, like sort of group across several countries kind of thing. And it in the and instead of going into any nuance, it basically boiled down to people versus white supremacists.
Yeah,
Like very, very boiled down. That's all it was.
and in many ways, it kind of served as a white supremacist dream because like it could have done some really interesting things because um some of the arguments that some of the Nords try to make actually are based on something that could be really interesting and wouldn't directly be white supremacy.
Yeah,
Because what they also talk about is like, oh, their own religion, how they have to, so basically, like all of the gods within the Elder Scrolls pantheon have different names in the Nordic tongue, in the Nordic pantheon.
yeah,
And like the pantheon is slightly different in a few ways, but they're kind of pushed towards doing it the
Imperial
Imperial
version.
way. And they have like Imperial settlements and everything. And like all of that is there, but it's like nobody like even in game nobody gives a shit.
Yeah, the
Because
actual overall impact it has on the world at large is negligible.
yeah, the most interesting way I can put this is the Nords are complaining, like the Nords don't worship Talos, and they are complaining that they aren't allowed to worship Talos anymore. But in their own pantheon, he isn't called Talos. He's called Shor. So
Yeah.
why are they screaming out for the glory of Talos when they should be screaming for the glory of Shor? Things like that, where it doesn't make sense, where they aren't treated as a nation that has been colonized, that has been forced into adopting external ways. They just are a group of people who like are upset with one particular law and decided, fuck it, we're gonna start a revolution because we want this one law overturned.
Yeah. It's one of those things that had a lot of potential, but just didn't quite make the
Yeah.
reach.
Any game by Bethesda is best when you turn the radio on, look into a random direction, and just go do quests.
Unless, of course, it's Doom, at which point you just
Doom,
pop.
I wouldn't. Doom is not really a Bethesda game, is it? It's made by Arcane.
No, it's not. It's made by id Software.
Huh. But still, it's not made by Bethesda Game Studios. It's released by
No,
Bethesda
it's
Softworks, but
published.
yeah.
Yeah. But still, Bethesda basically own and have oversight over Doom. Well, no,
Bethesda
technically Microsoft
Softwork
now
does,
own.
not Bethesda Game
Yeah.
Studios. Bethesda Game
No, but
Studios
now,
is the one we're talking about. We're talking about the Elder Scrolls and Starfield and Fallout.
yeah. But the thing is, when we do talk about Fallout in relation to Bethesda, we have to remove New Vegas from that conversation
Yeah,
because it wasn't Bethesda that made that one.
but that's the thing. New Vegas is in no way feels like a Bethesda game.
No, because it's an Obsidian game, and
Yeah,
Obsidian are known for making really good games.
Bethesda are
Control 2.
Bethesda are known to go into a game series that's already fairly good and just making complete knockout games, but being completely shafted in the process.
Yeah, they make very cookie cutter games. Like I'm I'm waiting for Starfield. I'm tentatively excited about Starfield, but when it comes out, I'm almost expecting it to just be Skyrim in space.
Kind of. I'm not sure. There is one good thing I will always say about Bethesda, though, unless I'm proven to be wrong on this. But it was during the production of Morrowind that they went through so much crunch, and it was after that that Todd Howard became like the head developer. And
Yeah,
because of everything he had seen, he made it so that there would not be crunch within Bethesda anymore.
I
Like
think
they
that
don't
he has
crunch.
held to that. Yeah, I'm fairly sure he has held to that.
Yeah. Like he's very open about like wanting to create a good work culture. And
Yeah,
it kind of makes it annoying to me that so many of the jokes about the new Bethesda games are like Todd Howard forcing the devs to release stuff before it's ready out of greed, when it's actually
yeah,
pretty clear that none of those are Todd Howard saying, or like just Bethesda as a company saying, it's okay, we'll get the game out. No, you don't need to
yeah,
crunch like over like 40 hours overworked just to get the game done. We don't do that here. Just work on it normally.
yeah. Like I do think what Bethesda could stand, and in fact they've almost learned it in a way, is delaying is infinitely better than an early release. Doom Eternal got delayed,
Yeah,
and it's well, in my personal opinion, because as some of you may know, I'm slightly biased over Doom Eternal. It's a
you absolutely
bloody
hate it.
good game. Don't you lie to the people, Triss. Don't you lie to the people. Doom Eternal is arguably up there in my top 5 games.
What are the other ones? What are the other five?
Oh, so I don't number these games because That
Totally
would be
fair.
illegal. But the games up in there in my top 5 are, and these are because they've had such a profound impact on me, are Lilac Wars for Star Fox 64, Super
Fair.
Mario 64, Doom Eternal, Hellblade: Senua's Sacrifice, and I always forget the fifth one. There's always one I forget in one way or another. And it's not coming to me right now, and that's going to annoy me.
Highway Blossoms.
Spirit, I'll chuck that in there. I mean, Highway Blossoms was my first VN, so
Yeah, nice. I think for me it would have to be definitely Life is Strange. Mostly because of like the impact it had on Rosa. Then this is for me and Rosa. It's basically going to be the same list because of how much of our life we've been basically like forced to live as the same person.
Yeah.
But that game was very instrumental for Rosa to figure out her identity. I would say Dragon Age 2, best Dragon Age in the franchise.
Right.
And probably the best RPG in existence. Which is a very controversial take. I'm aware.
Right.
I'm tempted to put on Three Houses, but I'm not 100% certain on that.
Okay. I'm very surprised by that.
That I'm not 100% certain on it.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm gonna be honest, most of my being a fan of Three Houses is more everything surrounding it rather than the game itself. I'm a fan of the characters, not so much the game itself.
Okay, fair. Now I understand that.
Yeah. And then I'd say probably I think Skyrim is probably on there for being like one of the first games I played. And Arkham City used to be on there, but it has kind of snipped off. I don't enjoy it as much anymore. I think in part because like I've matured so much in my politics.
Yeah. So it's quite a broad set of games you've got there.
Yeah.
I mean, which is good. Like, I mean, a couple of mine are just from my childhood. Some of them are games that I just like adored because they just put a big smile on my face and made me feel like a kid again. And some of them because they were just amazing stories, and some of them a bit of all of the above.
Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah. I'm trying to think where we are in your
Nowhere,
discussion.
absolutely nowhere.
We've tangentialized ourselves well out. Somehow we got from editing to Nazis to incels to our top 5 video games.
Yeah.
What
Fun,
a
isn't it?
route that has been. Like, I want to
Th-
kind of see the map of conversations and plot that, because that's going to be weird.
This is why I think we could do this for a year.
Yes, that's what concerns me.
Yeah, because like I know we can do this for a very long time.
Let's go back on. Okay, let's get back onto the list then, in some regard. Then,
TTRPGs.
Okay, so I'm still very much a babby when it comes to TTRPG, so I'm afraid my conversation, I won't be able to prolong this conversation for very long.
Yeah, I'm not sure if I've told this story on stream yet about like how I started playing in TTRPGs. Probably do because I put this on the list a lot.
Yeah.
But like I started by DMing, and I had one really good group that I started with that I played with for like 2 years, I think. That eventually like fell apart, and from there, I've kind of that eventually fell apart, but I've learned a lot about how to DM from that. And then like I struggled a lot to find like a good group. And now I have my group that I play on Sundays with. That's so much fun.
Okay.
So I'm playing in a Star Wars 5e setting, which is a modified version of D&D 5e in a Star Wars setting.
Right.
And originally the premise was that they were going to be part of the rebellion, fighting during like the timeline of the original trilogy. So it would start before episode 4, and I would kind of hint at what's going on. And then, like, once they get a little bit later in level, they would, like, the war would, like, properly kick off. And they could, like, be fairly, they were supposed to be, like, fairly influential within the rebellion by then.
Yeah.
And then, like, near the end game would be them fighting in the Battle of Endor as like high-ranking commanders and generals.
Yeah.
The very first, like, they acted kind of independently for a bit and then joined up with the rebellion proper. They were sent on one mission and immediately fucked it up. Just immediately. They were sent to speak to a crime lord who stole, like, information of the Empire's actions. They were told to meet with that crime lord in order to buy information.
Yeah.
They went into one of the club owned by this crime lord and caused a shootout in the
As you do.
middle of the bar and killed 3 top-ranking bounty hunters loyal to that crime lord.
Okay. Sounds like an
Yeah.
average Saturday evening.
Yeah, but like from the aspect of rebellion, that's not just, oh, we weren't able to get the information. That's we actively fucked up and we were not in any way, like, you can't really do that and then go back to rebellion and say, well, we tried our best.
An attempt was made.
Yeah, and like I will, like, my own part, it was a very unclear mission. I didn't really like green light stuff enough because I'm used to parties that are like, I'm used to parties who will go off rails regardless of what I put in front of them.
Hmm.
And this is a party who was very much like, okay, what's the real road you want us to follow? And that caught me off guard. But what ended up happening is 2 weeks ago during the session, they were discussing with the NPC that I put on the ship.
Hmm.
And the NPC was like, well, we're fucked because, like, I'm 90% sure that this was like a test mission, and the fact that we fucked up means that we're all going to be demoted. Like, they're not going to be happy to see us. And they were a little bit shocked by that, but then they were like, yeah, so this was essentially a suicide mission because it was like, if they wouldn't, like, the way I kind of put it is like, the rebellion at times would just send people on a mission and be like, if they don't come back, it's not a problem. And they were sent on one such mission. And that kind of angered them to find out. So they decided to form their own faction fighting against the Empire and the rebellion. And that gives me so much fun creative license.
Yeah, because you end up just trying out new things because you
Yeah,
suddenly got this new dynamic that you can throw in and just literally just screw things
yeah,
over.
I can do anything. They can be the one to blow up the Death Star.
It's
They can
literally
be
a
the one
case.
to kill the Emperor.
It's literally a case of screw you guys. We're going to create our own faction with blackjack and hookers.
Yeah, but like at first I was like, I'm gonna keep them within the story because I felt like for the Star Wars fans it would be really fun. Like, we were there at like this moment in the movies, you know? And like I kind of had to stick by that balance of they have to be very significant, but at the same time still fit within the existing narrative. And that gives some constraints, but also gives some interesting things to work with. But now all those constraints are off because they can do whatever. Because the kind of the general rule, the hand rule is the party must always be capable of succeeding at their goal.
Yeah.
Meaning, if they set their mind to forming their own faction that ends up like winning this war, they must be able to. So anything can happen now, and that's gonna be fun.
Yeah. I mean, it's nice to be able to have those options. Like, I mean, I've only played. I'm trying to think how many games I've played. I've DM'd one game, which went okay. I was very inexperienced, and I think I've played a couple of other campaigns, which were all very long form. But we had the unfortunate case of there was a player involved who was a bit of a pain in the neck, because what ended up happening was they would, if there was a rule that if they thought something happened that didn't line up with the rules, they would argue that rule, and that
Oh,
would lead
that
to
bullshit.
it led to repeated debates, and in fact, it led to us um, improvising, like adding a rule, which was if you can't successfully argue the rule in under a minute, it gets house ruled and reviewed later.
Um, I need to grab my. Hang on, I'm grabbing my book. Actually, no, I don't need to
Oh,
grab my book. But I can tell you, it's officially in the rules
yeah,
that none of the rules matter if the DM declares it not to matter.
yeah, because the DM is effectively God.
Yeah. Well, I mean, yeah, the DM has final say on every matter.
Yeah, but it was very much a case that this guy was like nailed and riveted to the rules kind of thing. But he was
Yeah.
also a solo player. He didn't play well in teams, which was particularly irksome. And in fact, there was one session that I vividly remember where he decided he wanted to go do a thing on his own without waiting for the rest of the party, which involved challenging a fairly hot, sort of like a villain in the story. We're playing mutants and masterminds, I think, and this led to a section where the DM was just trying to deal with his bit, and I then I then deafened myself on Discord and went and did something else, and I did something else for about 50 minutes to an hour. I then undeafened myself, and they were still going.
Jesus.
Yeah, and it
Yeah,
just it made it very
I'm
difficult
gonna
for me
say
to
like the
keep
DM
up
had
with
to cut
these.
it off way earlier.
Yeah, it was one of the things though, because what eventually happened was then he then fucked up, and it sort of was very much a case of like he messed up and he
Yeah.
couldn't recover from it.
Like, I'm sorry, but like if a player did something like that in my groups, um, as a DM, that would be like one of the moments where I'm willing to break the rules just in order to make sure that this person fucks up.
Or you just pace it a bit better. Like you can give them
Yeah,
these little sections where they're doing things and spread them out over a long
yeah.
period of time.
I mean, it's like I did have like a min-max player at one point who was kind of like, because he was the only one who was min-maxed, challenges for the party couldn't quite match him.
Yeah.
So, but that what we did was in a discussion. We said like, well, when next time you're in town, there will be a mission that you can do that's like really quick, but like that's just for your character. And like
Yeah.
he ended up breaking into someone's house because he was for like or basically like hired to do so. Not
Mm.
really directly hired, but it was like did it for special reasons and broke into that house and got what he needed and then got out again.
Yeah.
But it was like it was with really quick rolls, and it was like I knew that that person knew all of his stats, so I could just go sleight of hands here. All right, yeah, that succeeds. What are you gonna do next? And
Yeah.
like go through it really, really quickly. Um, to and like because it was that quickly and interesting, and I kind of mixed in some intrigue. All the other players were interested. They wanted to listen in, and like I think it was like 15 minutes in total, which is doable in a 3 hour session.
Yeah.
And it was I also kind of like mentioned to the other players like, right, this is what's gonna happen next. Think about it. Like think what you're gonna do. Like you're gonna go on a shopping session. Like after this, you're all gonna go to the market and be able to shop. Think about what you want to go and buy. You have until this thing is done, and then you can all say what you want to get. Um, and like that's honestly such a helpful tool to just get people to go like, yeah, think about this thing. I'll give you some time to think. In the meantime, we're doing this. Um, and I could just run that for 15 minutes and then come back, and that player was happy because like he got challenged on something. Um, but like at the same time, it wasn't like too taking away from the party, which I will say he was very good at. He was very good at stepping away at times so the other people in the party could have the moments to shine.
Yeah, this guy wasn't very good at that. Like he
Yeah,
basically wanted to be the sole protagonist of the story.
yeah, that's an issue.
Yeah. Um, but yeah, it's kind of the reason why I took a bit of a break from um from TTRPGs, just so that I could reset myself and then go back to them later. Like,
Yeah.
I'll admit that the game I DM'd was a lot of fun because one of our players rolled a stupidly high score for his barbarian, and like it's not an exaggeration to say that this guy basically probably could have soloed the campaign.
Yeah. I mean, what I will also say though is that's where good DMs come in as well, or I should say experienced DMs. Um,
Yeah.
because like every character has their weak point, but also like that's where you just put something in that one character is just physically incapable of doing.
Oh yeah, like I threw in some things. Like I'd thrown in some things where it didn't rely on brute strength to get through, and
Yeah,
that worked quite well. And he was also very, very good at role playing, getting behind that, and he also knew when to step back and let other people handle
yeah,
things. And that was just ideal because he was literally his character was built like the proverbial brick shithouse, and it was just yeah, he could have done it, but he let other people do it.
yeah. And it's a very good way to deal with tanks.
Yeah.
Awesome to do with dexterity saving throw.
Yes.
Like I kind of noticed that. Like I had a very good fight, like where they killed those bounty hunters I mentioned.
Mm.
Um, I had them. One of them they took out with stealth beforehand, who was kind of suggested to be a joke, kind of like the kick of the group. You know, the person always got like kicked around.
Yeah.
Um, but I then I got to fight the other ones. I'm gonna see if I can find a stat block on Roll20. Um, are you familiar with what a Herglick is in Star Wars?
No, but if you tell me what it is, I might know what it is.
I mean, they are from um, they're from like they're not from canon, or I
Okay.
think they're from Legends at least. Um, I'm gonna send it in the stream text channel.
Right.
Um, that's a Hergnick
Hold on. I've lost
on
sight of what it.
Discord.
There it is. Bam. Okay, no, not seeing one of those.
Yeah,
That looks somewhat dodgy though, that
yeah.
picture.
For the people listening in, basically imagine a killer whale, the size of 2 people high, 4 people wide. Um, that's basically what a Hergnick is like, and they're a form of
Yeah.
humanoid. They were up
Yeah.
against one such Hergnick who was named Tiny. Um,
Because of
and that was
course.
one of the 2 bounty hunters, and then there were a bunch of goons who
Yeah.
had um, a fairly high armor class, fairly high hit points,
Mm.
a little bit more speed than usual, than people usually have. Um, had a few special abilities. Any creature trying to dodge or escape a grapple by Tiny has disadvantage if they took damage since their last turn. So if this person's trying to grab you, or if you're trying to escape from grabbing it when you are grabbed, you're going to have a hard time. Um, if a creature takes damage from an attack of opportunity from Tiny, they must succeed a DC 14 dex save or be grappled by her.
Okay.
And when hit with a melee weapon, Tiny can use a reaction to turn the table and attack once herself. And then given a Vibro X, a rush ability, where if moving at least 15 feet, can basically body slam into people, at which point you need to take a saving throw to avoid falling back. And when grappling someone, can crush.
So basically, what you created here was the Juggernaut
Yes, and
from
can also
Deadpool.
attack twice on any turn.
Definitely Juggernaut.
And also has a sword on top of the axe.
Yes.
The second bounty hunter they fought was Kara's Thorn, who also had fairly good armor, not quite as much HP, but um, had a like repeating blaster, so like full automatic basically,
Yeah.
with a grenade launcher attachment. that could fire as a bonus action. Oh no, the grenade launcher could launch as a reaction when taking damage. So if you shot this person at range, they'd shoot a grenade.
That's pretty good.
And the thing about full automatic weapons in this system is they can fire in burst, meaning that any creature within an area must try and avoid the hit with a saving throw. Again, being Dex, in other words, very useful against tanks. Or if it's on automatic, where it's all on the same person, they also have to take a saving throw but take double damage. And can fire twice.
So basically, they have to dodge twice as well, and it's all in an area.
Yep. Unless it's fully spraying on one specific target and dealing double damage.
That sounds hellish in the best
Yeah.
of times if you're on the receiving end. Sorry.
On top of that, had a gas grenade, which can poison people who stand in it, a stun grenade, which stuns you and makes you unable to respond, and just a full-on damage grenade.
Crikey. That's a lot.
Yeah. They absolutely, like, the players absolutely seem more to fight because they managed to disarm Tiny at the very beginning. But it was still fun, but it was like a really, really fun fight to run.
Yeah. I'm afraid I think I've come to the limit of my tabletop RPG sort of experiences and knowledge here.
Yeah.
So, what should we go to next?
Actually, wanna know the most fun NPC I ever made for a TTRPG game? Because I got to run that character yesterday.
Go on.
RQZ 970, a protocol droid working in a spaceport that the players visited, who ran the bounty board. And they are basically like just like a fairly large droid on like all sides completely plugged in with cables, accessing every security camera in that station at the same time. And like you could go up and like ask for what open jobs there are. Has like a massive socket in her chest, so that they can grab a data pad, stick it in, read or write data on it, and then hand it to people which contains like all of the information on the mission they have to do. But what made running that character so fun is that they say everything very literal and very much according to protocol. So I had 3 missions prepared, and I had basically just written down in bullet points what the mission was, and just in voice, the droid just read out those bullet points, which made it so fun. But the 3 missions they were given, one would be to rescue an Iranian princess who was held hostage by pirates.
Okay.
Fairly standard, but pays a lot. Track down a bounty hunter working for the Empire, and getting him. And the third one is really fun because it's taking a pilot who's on a station and just beating him up because he insulted that specific droid. So like he just himself put a bounty on the board just because he wanted someone to beat up that pilot for being rude.
Sounds fair enough.
Yeah, and it was basically just in there as like kind of a joke option because it was a very lighthearted and fun thing. Just walk into the cafeteria, find the person, and beat them up.
Yeah.
So I'm very happy that like the party saw it and just immediately took it.
It is good when a party just goes for the silly options.
Yeah, and like the fun thing therein is because within the log, the droid like themselves is written as a client, by the way, the droid uses any all pronouns, so she would just meet it out and go like, client for this job is RQ7970, and just go through everything like so. It was so hard not to break character by bursting out into laughing because everything is just like said so dry.
Yeah. I mean, that sort of reminds me of a silly character I had. Again, we were playing like another Mutants and Masterminds, and it was very Guardians of the Galaxy themed because, and I was playing, I was basically playing a bipedal lizard that I named Skiabola, and who was very loosely based off of Widowmaker from Overwatch, like just before
Because why
it got
not?
released. Yeah, for like a sniper rifle turned assault rifle, effectively.
Yeah.
And he was he wasn't the sharpest knife in the drawer, shall we say. But out of spite, I leveled him up specifically so he'd have the highest intelligence stat in the entire party.
Okay.
So he would do daft things from time to time. Because he was also based on Caboose from Red versus Blue, if you've ever seen that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, for example, I ended up in a fight with the big bad at one point, and basically decided that I wanted to kill him and remove his spine from his body because I decided because he also had an addiction to chocolate biscuits, and I basically decided that his spine was chocolate biscuits, and I wanted it.
No.
And it became a daft thing that was a current running thing through the campaign, and repeatedly my character would get bribed with actual chocolate biscuits, which was a nod to my DM, who, when we were at university together, he would always have a packet of chocolate biscuits in his bag.
Oh.
So there was a reason behind that, and it just became a whole running gag. And we actually, when we did win, because I don't know how my character didn't die, because I did so much stupid stuff with him. He, by all rights, he should have died, but didn't. And then by the end of it, we did kill the big bad, and I did get his spine.
Nice. I mean, that's what it's all about, right?
It's all about getting the bad guy's spine. No, wait, it's all about the fun you have along the way.
No, it's about the spines.
Okay, good.
No, it's the very first group that I ran with, when one of the players' character, I think it didn't die, but was just like I want to try new characters, like the character retired.
Yep.
Came back with a character who was who kind of played as being not very good at what he's doing, but was secretly a spy for the big bad evil guy.
Right.
So near the very end, one thing I put in, which is one of my favorite things from a D&D setting, which I'm absolutely going to put in my own fantasy setting if I ever get around to it, mimic houses. It's a mimic.
Houses?
It's a mimic, but instead of looking like a chest, it's disguised as a house.
So basically, what we're looking at here is the plot to the film Monster House.
Yeah, it's Monster House.
Okay. That's a film I haven't seen in ages or thought of until just this second.
They went into a mansion version of that, so like genuinely massive,
Crumbs.
and they managed to control it.
Hmm.
But like, so do you know how the mimics are in Dark Souls, where they sprout arms and legs?
Yes, those
Yeah.
creepy so-and-sos.
Imagine that on the size of a house.
Okay, yeah, no, none of that, thank you.
So again, this mimic got massive. And it was at that point that that player decided to reveal the fact that he was. So there were 4 players at total there.
Right.
One player revealed that I'm actually for the bad guy, and convinced someone else to join him. So it became a 2v2 PvP. In order to try and get control of this mimic house, because whoever would have that mimic house would basically win, because they could just completely trample the BBEG's lair.
Crumbs.
And that was so much fun to play with because they had to use like Dimension Door and fly spells and everything to try and like stay on top of the house and like fight each other in the air. It was so amazing.
Oh boy. It's D&D and other types of RPGs are just an amazing little melting pot for weird and wacky ideas.
Oh, they absolutely are.
It's like I swear blind that some tabletop RPGs like so I keep hearing this story floating around, and I haven't watched the series yet, but I plan to. There's a series on Amazon called The Expanse, which I understand was originally a story birthed from a tabletop RPG.
Interesting.
Well, and I'm wondering how many mainstream media ideas have come from just tabletop RPGs.
Quite a lot, honestly.
Yeah,
Oh, do you know a story that originates from a TTRPG? Specifically from D&D, actually.
go on.
Doom.
Really?
The very first Doom is inspired by a D&D game that id Software had because it ended with like a portal opening to hell and demons coming out. That
I'll be
inspired
damned.
Doom.
Well, I'll be damned.
And with this, I mean like old school Doom.
Yeah. A
Yeah,
Doom one, which I played
yeah.
quite recently, actually.
On the Hellwalker Marathon that you did together with Sam the VA Mod over on twitch.com/Falcon77 and twitch.com/Sam the VA Mod. Hello, Paul.
Twitch.tv.
How are you doing?
Twitch.tv.
Shush.
Yeah, like, and hopefully Sam and I are going to be picking that back up again this week
Yeah,
because
hopefully soon.
we've had some inadvertent breaks on it because of
Yeah.
reasons like one of us or the other has had some kind of thing get in the way that stopped us.
Yeah. No, so Paul, thank you for asking. I'm doing well as well. We have Hayden on as a guest today
Hi, Paul.
on today's episode. So feel free, by the way, anybody in chat to ask any questions you have at any time because we're going to be here for a while.
Yes,
I think,
I have.
Hayden, you said you could go for 3 hours and I'm going to milk you for as much time as I can. So,
Phrasing,
no.
please.
I'm sorry, I love that power move of myself of no.
I mean, you got me there. Oh dear. Oh dear. We did it. We made it 2 hours before some kind of innuendo joke between the two of us happened.
I'm surprised it took that long.
That's what she said?
No, no.
Okay.
That would have worked if I said I'm surprised we lost it that long.
Ah, okay. Yeah, no.
And you shouldn't hesitate as much.
Back to failure. Back to failure with
Yeah.
me.
That's what she said is a bit lowbrow humor though. Only I'm allowed to do that.
True, but like some lowbrow humor is objectively hilarious. Like if you just get that shot just right,
True,
it's just
sometimes.
absolutely fantastic.
Yeah, sometimes.
Yeah, I mean, like there was a joke where like me and some friends were playing Payday at one point, and one of them was, and one of my mates took a shot at somebody and missed, and he went, "Oh god damn it, I missed by 2 inches." And one of my other friends, without missing a beat, turned around and said, "I'll show you 2 inches."
Hello
That was
Fleming,
it. We
how
were
are you
gone.
doing? Hope you're having a wonderful day. Welcome to chat.
Yeah, we were gone after that. It was brilliant.
Oh, I can imagine.
Yeah.
Like I said, I want to get like more stuff with people on, but it's like
Yeah.
I really want to play. There are 2 games I really want to play. Lego Skywalker Saga, which isn't out yet, which I want to talk about in a little bit. But I
Okay.
also really want to play the Old Republic on stream, especially because while it's an MMO, I looked it up. in the free-to-play version, you can follow every single character class's story. And like I think a lot of stuff you can still access, you just need to unlock it. Like most alien races, you will unlock during free play if you play for long enough. But if you have the premium version, you get it all from the start.
Okay.
And if you have premium version, you can like go into the post game. But it's
Yeah.
like what I want to do is I want to play the story up until like the resolution of each class story, because every class has their own story, and then go
Yeah.
on to the next class. But I want to edit those just like I'm doing with the Fallen Order streams. So
Mm.
I feel like I need to get all the Fallen Order stuff done first, and then I can do the Old Republic. But it's been confirmed that upcoming Wednesday at Gamescom opening night, the new trailer for Lego Star Wars, Lego Star Wars Skywalker Saga will be shown, and
Ooh,
it's very
interesting.
likely that it will be accompanied with a release date, because as we're going between, thank you Fleming, I'm doing well myself. As always with these kind of Trisscast episodes, feel free to ask questions at one topic at any point, but we're going to mostly be just ranting about whatever topic we have. But feel free to ask any question directed at me or Hayden at any time. But yeah, one thing that really gets me about like the Skywalker Saga is how annoying the online fan base for it is,
Okay.
because it can get so fucking toxic. Like people who are it's very well known information that the devs are under an NDA. They
Right.
can't tell us anything.
Yeah.
And people are constantly adding them going, give us a release date. When's the game coming out? And all things like that. And just grasping on stuff where it's like you don't understand video games, or you would know that this is not how video games get announced. Because people do things like messaging the Lego group on Twitter, and then like taking whatever the social media intern that's running that account and asking like, hey, do you have like behind the scenes information? And then they're like, we're gonna bring it as soon as we can. I'm sure something soon is gonna happen. And like, this is confirmation that they were told that soon this is gonna be revealed, meaning that keep your eyes out for these and these dates, because that's when it's gonna have to happen. There's no way to lie to us. And I'm like, dude, that's an intern. That's an intern who like is trying to give a positive answer because they don't want you to get mad, but who genuinely doesn't know and is just trying to say something to keep you happy.
See, if I were in that position and they were like, "Hey, have you got any behind the scenes knowledge?" My response would just be yes, and that would be it. And then if they press for me, I'd just go, "Oh yeah, I've got
No,
behind the scenes knowledge. Just can't talk about it."
I mean, like the Lego group has like a really good customer service. Like
Yeah.
the way they respond, it's very clear that they will actually read your message. If it's like
Yes.
if it's like a good faith message, and like repeat like, oh, I'm so glad you're excited, and then like that normal talk, but like they put effort into their responses.
Which is good.
But yeah, which you don't expect from like a Twitter DMs from a corporation.
No.
But it's like it's really interesting. But like the fan base can get so toxic, like especially where one thing that's been tipping off, and the people who understand game dev know like this is pretty major. Recently, everything on the Steam store of the game is being updated.
Okay.
Like the header images, including like the header images that's when it's in your library, which nobody can see right now. And when it's on sale, like all of those like extra assets are being replaced by like newer high def ones.
Yeah.
The reason a company would do that is because it needs to be done before they can handle pre-orders. Meaning if they're doing it now, it means they're prepping for pre-orders, and you can't give pre-orders without a release date.
Yeah.
And like that's actually major, but you see so many people like, oh yeah, that's the boring news, that's not much. But some devs are leaving the company. That's major. Is the game gonna be cancelled? It's like, no, people leave game studios all the goddamn time. Like it's normal.
Yeah.
Like
Some people
it's
don't.
career moves.
I mean, some people don't focus on the right things. Like Like one thing, the sort of with gaming, like the only time I've sort of actively asked devs things is for games that aren't going to happen. So, for example, um, one of my favorite game series from the Star Wars universe is Star Wars: The Force Unleashed.
Not a bad
I
choice.
I actively love Starkiller. Like Sam Witwer to this day is still one of my favorite actors, and he still actually does stuff in Star Wars. He was the voice of Darth Maul
Yeah.
for in Clone Wars, I believe.
Yeah.
And um, when Disney bought out LucasArts, Force Unleashed 3 was cancelled, which meant we had which meant we had a trilogy that was never going to see completion. And
To be
I was
fair,
on
after two, I really wasn't. After two, I really didn't want a third.
I did just because Starkiller. I was also like 14 at the time.
Yeah,
Um, I'm just dating myself a little bit there. Excuse me while I go cry. That was half my life ago. Um, but then I was browsing Reddit a few years ago, and I actually happened to bump into one of the people who'd been working on Force Unleashed 3.
Hmm.
And I actually turned around and I asked him, "Are you able to tell us anything about it, or are you still NDA'd up to the eyeballs?" And his response was, "I'm NDA'd up to the eyeballs."
Yeah,
And I
of
literally
course.
thanked him for giving me time of day, and that was it. I left it at that.
Yeah.
It was just are you able to tell us anything, or are you still not able to talk? And he gave me the answer to my question, and that was it.
Yeah. Nice.
Yeah, and I think that's the best way to do it. Like, it's just
Yeah,
like
like you ask if they're allowed to. You don't
yeah,
pester them. You don't bully them. You definitely don't like harass them for it.
yeah, and I don't understand why people want to, because, like, say for example, if I got wind that Nintendo were working on a new Star Fox game, for example, and I would not immediately go hunting down Dylan Cuthbert and like tell me everything. No, because it's like, why would I want to ruin the fun for myself? Like,
Yeah,
it's
I mean,
something
like
on.
in this case, what is mostly is like when's the game coming out? Like, are you still working on it? Is it cancelled? All of that stuff.
Yeah, like that kind of stuff. I don't reckon. Like, just like I know
Yeah.
you're excited, but wait.
Yeah, I think my own concern with it is like very clearly what's a lot happening in there a lot is people who really don't understand the game industry, who
Hmm.
make like YouTube videos and such on it that are like very clearly clickbait,
Yeah.
and like they don't know what they're talking about, but they're just trying to talk because they're trying to get views, like they're trying to get attention, and it's so annoying because like speaking of, I've studied in the game industry. Um, I know quite a lot about it, and I have contacts who still work in it. Ask me anything you want about the game industry. I can most likely I might be able to answer actually, because like we were taught like very in-depth stuff about like
Yeah.
just the working of the industry itself. Um, have I told you this? You know the game Horizon Zero Dawn?
Yes.
Do you like that game?
I do. I still need to finish it though.
Yeah. Are you familiar with the studio Guerrilla Games?
Yes, I am.
Yeah. The year the year after Horizon Zero Dawn came out, I was in my college, and I went to a we one of the lecture slots was filled up with media industry, where like different studios would go in and like talk about what it's like at their place, to kind of give us a sense of the game industry. Guerrilla Games was there
Oh.
because it's a Dutch studio, so like high ranking, not
Oh.
just representatives were there, but like actually like I think like the owner was there,
That's cool.
and to basically go, hey, weren't you in your final year? Come do your internship at us, at our place. Yeah, B,
I
we're
mean,
still live. We're talking about game dev,
and
and I'm
Triss made
bragging
a,
about it.
and also Triss made a horrendous comment earlier that she refused the phrasing response to.
Yeah, because you said you're going to be here for 3 hours, and I'm going to milk that as much as I can.
No, no, no. That's not the wording you've used, and you know damn well that's not the wording.
Yeah,
you've
I'm
used.
going to milk you as much as I can.
Dear. Dear, oh dear, oh dear. Moving swiftly on. Yes,
It's a
you're
colloquially accepted phrase. You know what I'm
right.
saying.
Yeah, but it was more the turn of phrase to begin with. You said I could go for 3 hours,
Yeah,
and then followed it up with that. That's where it got dodgy.
fair. I'm
Anyway,
still right though.
anyway, get back to bragging.
But yeah, I know quite a bit about like how the game industry works. Thank you for the validation, B. See, B agrees with me.
I
But
will
yeah,
get my vengeance on you.
when I look at like how such discussions go online, it's so annoying how it's so clear that especially like with such a franchise that's so popular with kids, that there will be people who will just make like who don't know anything about it and will just like say the worst case scenario because that will get people to click on the video. And it's so annoying, especially when they just don't know what they're talking about.
Yeah.
And like I said, no, in this case it's about the new upcoming Lego Star Wars game, which is so it originally was gonna it was revealed 2 years ago at Gamescom, and yeah, it was revealed at Gamescom 2019, and it was slated for release, and which wasn't officially revealed, but it was said summer 2020. And then it kind of came out, like kind of got leaked. It was slated for release originally for um I think it was October 2020 was when it was supposed to release, but something happened in 2020 that you may have all heard of that resulted in a lot of people not being able to work at the studio. You may have heard of something like that happening.
Yeah, apparently there was a massive stink bomb went off in the studio.
Yes, something like that. So so everybody had to work from home, and on such a large game, that complicates matters a lot. So the game
Yeah.
got delayed. They expected it to be done in spring 2021, which honestly, like given the situation, really good. Um, but it's like so Warner Bros. Has a really bad marketing team. Like Warner Bros. Does not market games at all, and TT Games is kind of the same, because TT Games used to release games every year, so they didn't really need to market. Because what they would do is they would put out trailers 3 months before release, and then announce a release date, and then like 3 months after that, the game would be released and everybody would buy it. But now, like I think like the last one came out 2018 or something like that. It's like they've gone a very long time in between, so now they really should. Um, they really need to market it, and they're not doing it because they don't really have the staff for it. They don't really know how. And that kind of results in other people not really knowing what's going on. Like, is the game still out? What's going to happen with it? Why have we seen so little of it? And it's like, relative to other Lego games, this is usually the amount of marketing you would get, but usually it would come out way quicker. Because I'm going to be honest, Lego games are kind of shovelware, or at least the TT
Yeah.
Games Lego games. Like, they're the best shovelware on the market, but they are
Yeah.
still kind of shovelware.
Yeah.
And that's why I'm so hyped about the new Lego Star Wars, because it so clearly isn't. They're redoing the engine and everything.
Yeah, they've taken time to put into it.
Yeah.
There's something that you sort of said earlier about people not like understanding how the video games work, and I sort of get similar things with TV
Yeah.
actually, and people don't understand how TV or by extensions how media works. Um, because like people do seem to think that things can be just turned around really quickly or on a dime, and the answer is just no. And also as well, like getting a job in like TV/media is spectacularly difficult. So, like, when I was initially looking for jobs, my parents were just like, "Well, why don't you apply for this? Why don't you apply for that?" And I was just like, "Wrong role, wrong role, wrong role, wrong role," all of that as I was going.
Yeah.
And then later on, I actually found out quite a terrifying statistic, which is so this, as far as I'm aware, this is isolated to the UK, but it could be representative globally. But let's assume that this is just the UK. What do you think the percentage of media jobs in the UK that get advertised? What do you think the percentage is?
10%?
Close enough, 12.
Hmm.
12% of media jobs are publicly advertised because it's not about what you know, it's about who you know
Yeah.
and being like the first port of call in industry. And if you're new to that industry, you need to build up contacts quite quickly, and that's just difficult. I've been quite lucky. Um, I've been quite lucky that I've been able to make some incredible friends and build up contacts who've been willing to go to bat for me, which is absolutely great because it's meant I've had the opportunity to sort of hone my skills and learn more, such as with producing. I can tell you I was like through some friends I got to work on something last Thursday. I can't
Yeah.
tell you what it is yet, but I can tell you that I got to work something last Thursday. Um, but it's getting those opportunities, and then once you've sort of proven yourself in front of those people, then they're more likely to come back to you and say, "Hey, do you want to do something else with us?"
Yeah, absolutely.
And it's, yeah, people just don't seem to understand that getting a job in the media is that difficult, and then just doing stuff in media, because it's all like the business people have got to deal with their money side of things, and then even then it's got to go through pre-production, it's then got to go through setup, testing, all of that stuff, and that just takes time, so much time. In
Yeah.
fact, it's not uncommon for like some films to take years to edit.
Yeah. Like how many like so last week I released a video that's like 15 minutes in length. People in chat, how long do you think I worked on that?
I know the answer to this one.
Yeah. Like I kind of had to redo the calculations. B, you're undershooting it. You're undershooting it. Paul, that's absolutely undershooting it for a 15-minute video in 3 hours. Are you kidding me? I wish I could do it in 3 hours. I'd have all the streams done by now. I spent 16 hours on like actual work hours. It took
Which
me 2
kind
days. I started Tuesday afternoon. I was done, technically speaking, Thursday, like, the night between Wednesday and Thursday at like 3 a.m.
Which, by the way, for somebody for like because your editing skills, your editing experience is
First
quite
time
limited.
making an edit of this guy. Like, literally, like, first time doing this.
Okay, that length of video in that kind of turnaround time is actually very, very good going. That's
Yeah,
actually quite impressive.
I know. I work really quick. I'm very
Yeah.
quick, Haley. You should know this by now.
Phrasing, please.
No,
Oh no.
you know my answer. But yeah, like Paul's
uh,
saying, all that work and all you get from it is a job.
yeah. I mean, with some
And
editing,
jobs
like,
suck.
yeah, I mean, with some editing, like, I'm working on a video at the moment, and I have been working on it for a few weeks now because I'm also using it to teach myself stuff, and it's the first time I've done a video like this. So I am just teaching myself new skills with it. In fact, I think I was telling you a skill that I picked up in making this video that you then declared black magic or dark magic, one of the two, which was color grading.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I say that more in the sense of like, I have no idea how it works. To me, it's just magic.
Yeah, I don't understand how it works. I just use it.
Yeah. And that's
But
also in part a joke I kept from my education because my programming teacher referred to anything that was graphical as magic. And
yes,
like, I always kept making the joke of if you want like good graphics in your game, what you need to do is you need to get a bunch of like game artists. You need to look them up in your center, and you just need to feed them fish heads like once a week. Um,
so It sounds like your lecturer had ascribed to the art goblin from The Sims a bit.
No, but like he kept like going on to like those jokes, but like just genuinely like did not understand anything about art, and like kind of when you go into programming, it really is like a thing where like the process is so difficult, and as somebody who can do both, it's like the skills for one genuinely like do not apply to the other at all. It's
Yeah,
very hard to learn both, which is why
yeah,
I'm only mediocre at both.
yeah. I think for me with color grading, it is like it's taking the footage from a camera and being able to make it look correct. Like, for example, so my camera is not a very good camera. The blacks, when you take photos with it and take video with it, the black end of the color spectrum actually comes out more grey than black. Um, so when I put this into Premiere, I actually have to correct that end of the spectrum so that it actually shows up as black and not grey. And then I also have to balance out the white end and then getting the color to actually make it look like something you see in real life rather than a washed out mess.
Yeah,
And like, I don't understand how I'm able to do it, but I understand what I need to do to get the effect I want. And getting those grades in as well to get the colors you want is super difficult and is going to take me quite a while to learn. But it's fun to learn, and
yeah.
that's arguably one of the things that people don't understand. Another thing that people don't understand about film is making it look right. Like what you see on the screen is not raw footage from the camera. That's had so much stuff done to it to make it look.
Same with music. Any music you're hearing from like a big artist, that's not how it sounds in the recording booth.
Yeah,
Because if it did, it would be shit compared to everybody else who does edit all this stuff. Like, I'm very sorry, but like, if movies didn't edit their colors that much, they would all look like Marvel movies, and we don't want that. No, did you know that? That like, I don't know if they still do it, but for like ages in Marvel movies, they would all have the exact same color grading to keep continuity.
yeah,
And that's why so many scenes look shit. Because that's
yeah,
not how you would color grade such a scene for such a genre of movie.
yeah. That is the like. I will say they're very good at keeping the Marvel films all looking the same, but arguably that's not what you need.
Yeah.
Like you
Especially the
like
Captain America movies suffer from it. They should be so much darker.
yes, they should be. Um, but yeah, it is pure wizardry color grading, and the things you can do with it are just
Yeah.
phenomenal.
Actually, speaking of Marvel, um, I watched the 2 episodes of the What If series today.
Ah, okay. I thought you were going to say something different about Marvel, but carry on.
Oh, what was I gonna say then?
Oh, there's rumors floating about that the Spider-Man trailer's been leaked.
Oh, we didn't hear. I try not to look at leaks and stuff.
Yeah, no, I'm staying as far away from a
Yeah,
leak as I can until I see the official trailer.
yeah.
Yeah, I haven't got round to watching What If yet.
Yeah, I'm not gonna go like deep into spoilers, but like it feels so rushed, and I would especially like to hear your opinion on the audio when you watch it,
Oh no,
because it's
that
like to me all the dialogue sounds like it's slightly sped up.
I'm gonna have to check that out because, like, oh boy, you know what I'm like with my audio
Yeah,
stuff.
it's like
Like,
all the audio sounds like sped up, but like, and like I think I could have noticed it because I spent so much time editing. In all of the cutscenes I edited from the Fallen Order video, I cut out all of the silent space in between the talking. And it sounds like they did the same to the dialogue in this show, where they
I
recorded it
mean,
first and then just cut all the space in between out, because it feels like it just cuts into very quickly.
yeah, like sometimes it's good for animation just to make it fit to time, but you've also got to make sure that the end product sounds natural.
Yeah,
Like
it
for
doesn't.
example, the syllable that I referenced earlier. So for anybody who wasn't here for that, when I was at university, we were editing a short film, and we had a good take that was the only take we could use. and there was an inflection on a word that was wrong, and we had a bad take where the inflection was right, and I had to go in. I had to find a single syllable from a waveform, and this is how I learned to read waveforms, by the way. And I had to cut that syllable out and graft it onto the good take. And I spent ages getting it just right so it actually flowed properly. It's not an easy thing to do.
I think I kind of learned reading waveforms from editing the video as well.
Yeah. Eventually, I think what the aim is, you should be able to run your video through at like 1.5 to 2 times speed and listen to the audio and follow along what's being said.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it depends on like how quick you talk.
Yeah. And also like your skill as an editor, but like
Yeah.
everybody picks things up at different rates and does things in different ways. Like I'm still trying to learn the best way to optimize my editing workflow.
Yeah. I need a workflow. Would be so useful to have. But
I
yeah,
can send you a video later.
about the What If series, and like my biggest complaint of it is like this is less the case with the second episode, but like the first episode is what if Peggy Carter became like took the role of Captain America, so she becomes Captain. They just call her Captain Carter, but it's like Captain Britain basically, because she
Yeah.
uses the Union Jack instead. I was about to
Yeah.
call her the Onion Jack.
Well, it's certainly making a lot of us cry right now.
As it should. Um,
Please, you take us back.
no.
Okay, fair enough.
But the kind of the issue with it is it's basically just the first Captain America movie, but told within 30 minutes,
Yeah.
and it makes it feel so rushed. But like it kind of feels like it could be actually like a full movie, but it's so condensed. So and like they're trying to reference a bunch of like symbolic scenes and stuff with it, which is very interesting to see. But at the same time, it makes the if you haven't seen the Captain America movie, and that episode will not make sense at all.
Yeah. I mean that's the thing though. Like things like what if are just there as sort of padding
Yeah,
while it holds over for the next thing.
yeah,
Things
it's
like
only really for like the super fans. I think anybody else would like get so lost in it.
and the other thing as well is I think it's also a bit of padding because Black Widow got delayed for so long,
Yeah,
and then that then delayed, and then that little pandemic we had then
yeah.
delayed
Although like What If has
Spider-Man.
been in the works for so long.
Yeah, but then Spider-Man was delayed as well. So it's now the ideal time to sort of drop What If just to keep
Yeah,
people's interest and
that
keep their
might
appetites whetted.
actually be why the audio feels so odd to me. Um, because they it might just be something that they kind of had to rush in order to get it out in
Yeah,
time.
and I
Paul,
mean,
what do you mean are still having? I'm
oh, the
confused.
pandemic,
Oh, fair. Yeah,
because the pandemic is ongoing still.
yeah,
But yeah, but it also might just be that those resources that they would usually have dedicated to What If are mainly being prioritized for Spidey.
could be as well.
So yeah, so it might just be, it might work very well be that that's what they're working on at the moment. That's what's got the priority. And considering the rumored scope of the next Spider-Man film, it doesn't surprise me in the slightest. And
Yeah,
also, one of the other things that might have delayed What If as well is, if I remember correctly, they actually had Chadwick Boseman.
yeah. That's the second
Um,
episode.
yeah, they actually had him voice the Black Panther. So there, they cut. It's an unfortunate case of they can't really retake or re-record his audio because he's no longer with us.
I will actually say
Unfortunately.
his voice acting is actually some of the best in the show so far.
Yeah, but is the editing up to par?
No,
There we go.
it's
Like,
that episode is so hilarious though. Like without going into direct spoilers, it works really good. That one works pretty well.
Yeah.
because they don't make it a full movie. They make it something that fits within like a 30-minute video or
Yeah.
like a 30-minute episode, because it's like the beginning half is like setting the stage and everything, and like
Mhm.
taking on like the famous opening of Guardians of the Galaxy, but it's the challenge instead of Peter Quill. And then near and then like how he got like kidnapped by the Ravagers instead of Peter Quill.
Yeah.
And then after that, it's like a unique heist, which is hilarious. And there's one thing I will give away because it's just hilarious and it's not that massive of a spoiler. Thanos is in it, and T'Challa just had like a diplomatic conversation with Thanos and talked him out of all of his plans. And it's a reoccurring gag that Thanos at times will mention that he still thinks his plan would have worked. And like nobody, like everybody's like, dude, no, that's genocide.
Oh boy, full loop.
But like he's like a part of the crew. He's a
Yeah.
good guy in this episode. And it's so hilarious. And the one gripe I have about the design for Peggy Carter is
Yeah.
so her design is mostly just like the Captain America suit,
Mm.
and then they put Steve Rogers in a Iron Man style suit because in this timeline the Allies managed to steal the Tesseract earlier from the from Hydra. So Howard
Yeah.
Stark uses that to build a like basically an Iron Man suit for Steve Rogers because he
Okay.
couldn't end up being Captain America anymore.
Yeah.
And what happens is he so like Peggy takes that role instead, but she doesn't get to do the whole like war bonds route because she was already part of like intelligence agencies, so she
Yeah.
just kept her position. You know,
Yeah.
so that's how she was able to go into the field so much earlier. But so she's just basically given like Captain America's uniform, but with the Union Jack instead. And like it looks like the same uniform. Like it's very sensible. It's just like the flag is different, which you can kind of see as Howard Stark's misguided way of kind of trying to impress her, by just making everything the British flag. Um, but like for some reason she doesn't wear a helmet. And like that wouldn't be an issue except for the fact that that's like the most prominent part about Captain America's outfit is the
Yeah.
fact that he does wear a helmet.
Mm.
And the scenes of Agent Carter feel so out of place without like with the fact that she just has like the same long locks just like flowing in the air while she fights.
Yeah. But it is just down to that point of it's just filler content that Disney are putting out for the super fans, but they don't particularly care.
I mean, yeah, I will say the animation looks amazing.
Okay. I mean, I'll get around to it at some point in the non too distant future.
Yeah.
Ugh.
And also like one kind of complaint about the episode of with Peggy Carter in it is that it still feels like it's centering around it still very much centers around how do you say it around Steve in the end,
Mm.
because like he gets like the Iron Man style suit and everybody's cheering for him, and I'm like, yeah, the suit is cool, but this is meant to be a Peggy Carter episode.
Yeah.
You know, release a second episode, like add another episode that's specifically about Bucky Barnes and Steve Rogers in the Iron Man suit. That would be fun.
Yeah.
But yeah, I am very curious what like the rest of it gives.
Yeah. I mean, I'm just hoping it's not going to be too much of a what's the word I'm looking for? I'm hoping it's not just going to be one of these things that people seem to be like hyping up, and it's not going to be the letdown that people don't want it to be. Because we've had a fair few of those in media recently.
Yeah, that's fair. I personally think I just found it pretty interesting.
Yeah, it could be good fun. I mean,
Yeah.
that's all I want it to be, just good fun.
Yeah. I also yesterday with Merwin Hawk watched first Doctor Strange and then Thor Ragnarok.
Okay, what
We
did you
stayed up
think?
and we stayed up until 4 a.m. I mean, I've
Nice.
seen both already, but it was mostly like for Hawk and Mel to watch it.
Yeah. And Paul
Um,
makes a very good point. Don't hype anything up, you'll be a lot less angry. I mean,
true.
that's fair. Like, although saying that, I don't pre-order games anymore. And if I do, it's literally 24 hours before release date.
Yeah, and it's like sometimes hype can be fun, but you just
Yeah,
gotta be reasonable with it.
yeah. I don't get particularly hyped over things anymore.
Yeah.
Mainly because, and even then, when I've not been hyped, I've still managed to be disappointed by things.
Yeah.
It's the classic case of, um, it's the classic case of I expected nothing and was still disappointed.
Yes, exactly. No, but it's like sometimes my hype is just basically like, I really want this. I just think this will be really fun and I'm looking forward to this thing.
Yeah,
Because like sometimes you need something to be hyped for the future, you know?
yeah. You need something to look forward to.
Yeah. And like I feel like there's a difference between going, I really want this, I'm looking forward to it,
Mm.
and going, this will revolutionize everything. You know, just don't be an Elon Musk fanboy.
Yeah, I mean, like, while the technological developments are interesting, like focus on that rather than the person behind it, because ultimately they just
Oh,
bankroll it. They don't do anything
oh,
interesting.
oh, I'm fucking sorry, but what? Elon Musk's technological developments are interesting. What technological developments?
Not his in particular.
Okay,
I
good.
mean, separating those from people. Like some technological advancements,
Okay,
or
yeah,
actually finally pushing tech in a
yeah,
direction it should be going. Like for example, automated vehicles is a pretty interesting thing to go. I personally think it's terrifying, but if it gets bad drivers off the road, then I'm down. Um, but it's that weird gap in between where you've got automation and human elements in which causes problems. Some of the technology, Hyperloop as well, is quite interesting.
yeah. No,
But
no, I'm fucking sorry. No, Hyperloop is a piece of shit.
interesting. It's interest. It can be an interesting piece of shit. I'll grant you that. But it's the person behind it. Like Elon Musk, like doesn't really interest me as a person simply
Yeah, yeah,
because he is just a man with money. Like, what does he actually
yeah.
do?
But like I'm willing like Hyperloop and like I'm willing to say that about Hyperloop. The only good thing about the Hyperloop is the tunnels are the right size that we can put subway tracks in them.
Yeah,
That's the only good thing about them.
yeah,
Like literally, basically every innovation in that like sense that he's been coming up with. Like Simona had like an inland like high speed port or stuff like that, and like a semi truck and things like that, and all of it's just like, so imagine something good. Now make it worse, but make it look futuristic.
mm,
That's everything he makes.
yeah. And ultimately, like I'm very much a person of get the thing working first and pretty it up later. Like,
Yeah,
make it do the job.
it's like
It's function over form.
Elon Musk, like a lot of the stuff that Musk is coming with is very clearly falling kind of within the sense of we want like investors. We want people to throw money at this. We don't want to make you a good product. We just want you to throw money at us. Like
Yeah,
that's kind of what it looks like to me.
yeah, indeed. But yeah, moving away from sort of like Elon and the technological stuff, just because there's not really much more we can say about it because the tech just isn't accessible for everybody.
I mean, yeah,
Like,
no, the tech is just shit.
yeah,
Um,
what'll happen? What'll happen
I'm
is
yeah,
he'll develop the product, it'll be shit, and then someone will come along
yeah,
and do it better.
because like I think a lot of it is also just based on a mindset that I think is inherently flawed. because it's based on like most of it is based on the sense that cars are good, and all of the problems with cars we can just fix with better cars. When a lot of the problems with cars we can fix by not using fucking cars. Do you know the best solution to traffic jams is not just
Uh,
building more roads, it's using buses.
ah, that is absolutely a phenomenal point. However, what it also relies on is a public transport system that is worthwhile.
Yes.
For example, um, I drive to London. I drive to work. Um, now, I say that to people, and they're like, "Why the hell do you drive to London?" And the answer is simple: it's cheaper than the train.
Yeah.
It is like month to month. It is cheaper for me to insure and refuel a car than it is to get the train.
Yeah.
On a monthly basis.
Which is why public transport needs to be improved. But like my point with it is, and like I suppose pointing out, cars are profitable.
Yes.
And that's like the reason why. But like, when people say, oh, there would be so much less issues if like we didn't have like bad drivers on the road by like having automated cars. And I'm like, no, get those people who shouldn't be driving, get them in buses. Make like metro lines, like public transport that's cheap and accessible or preferably free, and get that to make people travel around. And sure,
Yeah.
not everybody will be able to use public transport, like people who need to shop for, like people who need the groceries for a large group, for example, or people who need to go very long distances or at unusual hours. People will still need cars. But for the people who need cars, because there will be less cars on the roads, the roads will be safer, will be less busy, will be easier to maintain, and will just be better.
Yeah. And less emissions. But
Yeah,
the scary thing was that when the pandemic all kicked off and we were seeing lockdowns happening across the globe, and that meant massively reduced people driving. There was a study done at the time, and like the majority of the planet stopping driving didn't
doesn't
even
fuck
put
yeah
a dent in the global
because
emissions.
because it doesn't because the biggest lie capitalists will ever tell you is that it's individual responsibility for climate change.
Yeah.
The only one it's the companies I don't fucking care if you're driving a car and stuff, or if you're using your PC a lot or anything like that. That's not like having that much of an impact on the energy and the resource crisis. It's the corporations who are being extremely wasteful that we need to point and look at. Like,
Yeah.
I don't care if you yourself throw an empty can of soda in the sea. You think that's causing the massive plastic waste in the middle of the Pacific Ocean? No, it's because massive companies are doing it with bulk loads of plastics and waste.
And like countries will often export their waste to other countries.
Yeah,
Like I know that several countries have actually turned trash barges around and sent them back to the UK because they just won't accept the trash anymore.
yeah,
Which I think is fair.
yeah. But it's like
Like,
for example, here in the Netherlands, right? We have to separate our waste by plastic, paper. Like we have to separate our waste, right?
mhm.
As soon as it's all picked up, it all goes in the same bin.
Yeah.
And it's to the point where why the fuck are we separating it? Why are we getting a fine when we don't properly separate it?
Yeah. I mean, here in the UK, certainly in my area, we have three types of waste. We have general rubbish, recycling, and food waste.
Yeah,
And recycling is literally everything recyclable: cardboard, plastic, the whole lot. It goes in the same bin. Food waste, we just have a special bin for, and that goes off, and I don't even know where it all goes. And then just general waste is just everything else.
Yeah.
But yeah, it is like weird. I do hate the idea that they're like, oh, you need to separate all this out, and then in the end, it's just like, chuck it all in the same bin.
Yeah.
It's all
And
good.
like, if instead we put pressure on like the companies who was, if like we took the companies who were supposed to separate it in the end, and told them you need to take the incoming waste and it needs to be processed and it needs to be separated, and you need like, let's say we took like a few of those companies and we said you have 3 years, bring us an efficient system for you to be able to fully separate and recycle all of your waste. And like we can put on like a large tax like payment on whoever comes with the best system and implements it, right? And then in 3 years we're like, right, which system is it? That one is the one that we tell every all the waste like connecting to do. And then, of course, the more people recycle it themselves, the easier that process will be. But that would also mean that the companies would have to actually start actually processing it.
Yeah.
Would have to actually separate the waste that's coming in.
Yeah, which they don't want to do because that
because
costs money.
Because it's not profitable.
Yeah.
Because again, like corporations don't care about the long term. They will absolutely kill off like everyone on Earth and all of like the Earth itself if it brings them profit in the process. It's actually I have a fun little pop quiz. The richest person in so T'Challa from the Marvel movies is the richest person within the Marvel movies, right?
Right.
I'm gonna try and see. Yeah. What do you think T'Challa's network is? What his network is within, like, estimated to be within the actual like Marvel universe.
Well, considering the vibranium, we're going to be looking at trillions.
Nope.
I'm going to say billions then, because I bet you then he's not going to exceed Bezos.
It's 500 billion. It's like the largest estimation. Tony Stark's around 100 billion, and Bruce Wayne is about 80 billion. Jeffrey Bezos is 177 billion, and that's just Bezos himself.
Yeah. That's just insane money to me.
Yeah, but it's like, in other words, according to this logic, Jeffrey Bezos is absolutely capable of like doing all the stuff that Tony Stark and Batman do. Like financially, at least.
Yeah.
And the fact that hasn't happened is like the most. I don't have a better way to show like how the media is just like capitalist propaganda nowadays.
I think Paul is quoting Bo Burnham's Inside, and which is a phenomenal reference if I'm correct.
Born in 1964, Jeffrey Bezos.
Oh, that's such a good comedy special.
Welcome to the Internet is such a good song as well.
Oh my god, it's the best it's the best villain theme that Disney never wrote. Genuinely.
Yeah.
So it's rare for me to do it, but I actually hyperfixated on that song for several days.
Nice.
Like,
I think I did for a few days as well. I mean, not hyperfixate, but I did fixate.
I had it on loop for days.
Nice.
But it is literally the best villain song I've ever heard. It's just so good, and it's so painfully accurate as well. What was the bit that really made me laugh in it? Here's why women here's why women won't fuck you. Here's how to build a bomb.
Yeah.
That one, like, that was just incel culture in 2 lines.
Yeah.
Like, that was incredible.
Fuck it, I'm gonna
Uh,
look up the lyrics.
Yeah, I need to look those up as well. I'm gonna look it up too.
One of my favorite lines of it is Obama sent the immigrants to vaccinate your kids.
Oh god, yeah. I showed that to my friend Locke, and he just lost his shit at that line. He was just absolutely kidding himself laughing. Yeah. Here's the line. Here's why women never fuck you. Here's how you can build a bomb.
Yeah.
But I loved the bit where it's just like all the different characters in Harry Potter fucking each other. Welcome to the, and he's laughing as he's saying it.
Here's a tip for straining pasta. Here's a 9-year-old who died. We've got movies and doctors and fantasy sports, and a bunch of colored pencil drawings of all the
That's
different
what it's-
characters from Harry Potter fucking each other.
Welcome to the internet. Oh my god! And then it's the "Would you like to fight for civil rights or tweet a racial slur?" That line
Yeah.
was just that
Start a
line is the
rumor,
spicy meat.
send a rumor, buy a boomer, send a death threat to a boomer. DM a girl and groom her to a zoomer, find a tumor in your... Here's a healthy breakfast option, you should kill your mom.
Oh god, I might have to just get a few people and just do like a rendition of that as a group.
Oh, I'm in. I'm already in. I'm inviting myself in.
Absolutely, as if you
W-
needed
How
inviting.
how many projects do we have that we still need to do? Because we also still need to do the sports commentator, Ace Attorney
Oh god,
stuff.
I've still got all my own projects to deal with. Like
Same.
like right now, I mean this is common knowledge. I think this should be common knowledge, and if it isn't, then spoiler alert, you're about to learn something new. Because like I'm still working on Studio Coattails' National Park Girls,
Yeah,
and like I've actually put on hold a load of stuff until that's completed,
makes
because
sense.
I yeah because it's a job I'm being paid for,
Yeah.
and it needs to be done. Whereas some of the other stuff, like I've had to put my writing on hold
Mm,
because of so much of the stuff that I've been doing, and I just haven't had the creative energy to focus on the comic.
yeah,
Um,
that makes sense.
but yeah, but the video editing is something that I can do in the background to teach myself stuff and
Yeah,
learn. And definitely, like I've already got plans in mind for a second video. I just need to get this first one done.
yeah, that makes sense. I'm really throwing myself heavy into video editing at the moment. Like I'm probably like after the stream, I'm gonna start editing the next video.
Yeah, I mean, you should absolutely like what you should do as well. If you're so dead set on on your editing, is you should look up like content creators that you enjoy and just watch their edits and
I already
see
do
what you
a
can
lot.
learn. Okay, then good. Then you're already doing. Then you're already learning.
I mean, wait, have you seen the final version of my video?
I don't think so. No, is it on YouTube?
It is.
Then I will go hunt it down later.
We're gonna do a live reaction live on stream.
Oh crikey. Um, I in this format, I don't think it would really work because
No.
chat wouldn't be able to follow along really.
I mean, I can screen share it. That's not an issue.
We could. But we could also save that for another day because that could be another video.
True. True. Could
I'm
be
just trying
fun.
to think. Indeed, I'd like that's what 15 minutes of time. That's dead
Yeah.
easy. I'm just trying to think. What else has sort of been going on and what else I could talk about in regards to
Be-
our.
because it's also like as soon as you start it, you're gonna see like you're gonna recognize like one of the inspirations into how I edited this.
Am I?
Like, yeah, like literally like the first line being said. You will recognize like one of my inspirations into how I'm editing.
I'm slightly concerned. Is it somebody I know?
Yeah.
As in personally?
No.
Okay. I'm wondering who it's going to be then.
Soviet Wombo.
Okay,
Because
do you
I
know
have
what?
everything captioned.
Okay, good. I was thinking about that because I was like, is it going to be Soviet Womble? And then you said it.
Yeah.
Have you actually seen Womble's latest bullshittery?
What's the latest one?
He's actually put out the Divinity one.
Don't think I've gotten around to that one.
Yeah, he actually commissioned a load of voice acting and animations for it.
Ooh,
It's very well done, and it's it's really edited well to cut a load of the guff and still keep the context. Like I'm following the story of their adventure and like not losing anything.
nice. But yeah,
And he,
one plan I actually have is when I've done all of my Fallen Order streams, all of it edited, I'm
yeah,
gonna turn them all into one video.
that's cool. That's very cool.
Yeah, because I figure I can do it very easily, and then I have some diversity of content.
Yes. And it would be good for somebody to just chuck on as one big video.
Yeah, and as a reminder for everybody in chat, if you haven't already, watch my video. I worked really hard on it, and I'm very
And
proud of it.
where would people find your YouTube chat YouTube videos,
Well,
Triss?
people would be able to find it if they type exclamation mark YouTube in the Twitch chat.
Oh, is that a thing that's doable? Let me try that and see if that works. It works. Look, there's a YouTube link there. Beat you to it, B. Check that out. That was completely off the cuff, by the way, as you may have gathered.
Thank you for the promo.
You misspelled Ari there, B.
Aiden's fur affinity. I need to make that a chat command.
Oh God.
But yeah, I've actually noticed like Rose has really good at marketing as well.
Mm.
Well, Rose has been marketing stuff for me while I've been gone, and it's like at one part I hate it, but like they're actually really good at it.
Yeah, right. Rosa is a clever cookie. Like
Yeah,
they will be able to do some stuff. And if their marketing's not doing as well as it is for you,
actually I need to check my analytics. I don't think the video was watched a lot, but
I actually just need to check my Twitch analytics in general. I haven't checked them for a while.
yeah. Thing
But
I
it's
have 15 views on that video. It actually went up because it was 14 on the dashboard, and then I go to the content page and it says 15. So somebody has clicked on it since.
yeah. Oh, sweet Christ. I've crossed the 1,000 hours streamed threshold,
Oh, nice.
and I'm nearing 10,000 total views. That's crazy.
I'm on 32 hours streamed.
So for anybody wondering, whenever I'm streaming or I want to check my own stats, I use a third-party website called Twitch Tracker, which also lets you compare your channel or any channel against another one.
You're going to compare it with mine, aren't you?
I've already brought it up, and literally all I'm comparing is all time, for which mine just pops into life partway through because I streamed years ago. But you've done very well from your start. You've made a very good climb.
Yeah, I had a good start, but it kind of echoed out in the middle. So I'm hoping with
It's still
doing more talking
climbing.
content, I can climb. I'm hoping I can climb again.
Yeah.
But like, I definitely, I think, like, stats aside, um, I did spend like a very long time where I have just absolutely no one in chat,
Hmm.
which is one of the reasons I want to do stuff like the Trisscast more often because I want people to know me a little bit more,
Yeah.
so that you know, we can talk about stuff other than the game in chat.
Twitch is a weird beast though, and it's getting
It is,
particularly bad at the moment as well,
yeah,
what with all the hate raiding going on.
yeah. It's there is like a boycott Wednesday. Wednesday, it's a day off Twitch.
I mean, I would say that I'll take part in that, but I don't stream on Wednesdays
Yeah,
anyway, so
I
it'd
have the
be
same.
yeah, so it would so I would literally just be like making noise for the sake of making noise about
Yeah,
it. But yeah,
it's but yeah,
I
it's one of the reasons I want to do more stuff on YouTube because you can't really grow just on Twitch. You need something from outside.
yeah, you have to be at like there's several things that I have learned. Like, so, in fact, like this is good information to share to you and any aspiring streamers or YouTubers sat in chat. I've been,
Give up on your
so I
dreams of
mentioned.
becoming a baker.
Sorry, what?
It's a song by Brian David Gilbert. Give up on your dreams of becoming a baker. You gotta give up on your dreams.
That was the sound of that whooshing straight over me. But no. So when you're getting started out with things, so there's a lot of good information out there.
Very good pun, B. Very
Yes,
good.
very good pun indeed, B. Well done. There's a lot of good information out there to sort of help guide and shape and also give and sort of like give you advice. But one channel which I mentioned to you earlier belongs to a YouTuber by the name of Joe Hickson. I discovered his content last month, I think it was, or maybe even 2 months ago. And in fact, I'm going to open up his YouTube channel right now. And I watched a completely unrelated video just because I was interested. And that video was how to make audio reactive overlays on Twitch.
Interesting.
Yeah, in OBS. And what he did was he'd made a thing that reacts to your mics to put anime speed lines on your screen when you get loud.
Okay, that's somewhat interesting.
Yeah, I'll ping you the video. In fact, I'll ping it in chat now in case anybody is interested.
Yeah, that would be good.
Yeah, so I watched this video and I followed it, and I followed it the way I've learned to follow tutorials now, which is where I follow them loosely, but I'm trying to make my own thing
Yeah,
using the information given to me. And I find it's a much better way of learning things. And what I ended up doing was I ended up making an audio reactive spectrograph. So basically, you know how um, like you have the audio lines in editing software to show how loud your audio is.
see, I know.
Yeah. Yeah, I basically had a circle of that, and when I spoke, the lines would expand and go out and react. And using a few tricks, I was able to sort of prolong it to make it look more natural and make it look right.
Okay,
And that was all stuff I learned from that video. I then decided to see what else he had, and I started watching through some of his other Twitch stuff. Like he talks about streaming with bad internet, or um, filmmaker on like filmmaking that being a filmmaker and discussing that in relation to stream layouts, that kind of thing. And I got watching, so I then ended up looking through some of his other stuff, and I found these videos that are in playlists and they're seasons, and they're basically his vlogs. And he started making them so that he would actually do stuff. And it's quite interesting because you start off with him in like his second year of university in
ooh,
season one. And then at the start of season two, he got a job with the Yogscast because of what he was doing. And to anybody unfamiliar, the Yogscast are a large multi channel network based in Bristol in the UK. And
yeah,
this guy, in his second year, just going into his third year of university, got a job with them because of some stuff he put on YouTube.
that's pretty major, actually.
Yeah, very major. And he includes the stuff that he puts up in this playlist. And then you go through, and it's him going on and some of the stuff he does. And he drops some really interesting tips in there.
Yeah,
So, and he's also done some stuff that I've tried and succeeded in recreating in places.
nice.
Um, in fact, one of them, he does a tutorial of how to do like a pixel sorting looking animation as a transition between shots, and that's something I want to do. But
Ooh,
it's just as you watch this stuff, it gets you see it grow and develop, and you see Joe grow and develop, but it's really relatable as well. Um, and there was a part where there's bits where he gets very self-reflective in one point, and did a video about mental health and overworking, and he was quite honest about it. And um, I'm not going to go into the details because content warnings, but I do highly recommend that anybody who piles ridiculous amounts of pressure on themselves to do stuff and do a lot of things, go and check that video out. He was talking about his mental health and how the amount of stuff he does and how much pressure he puts on himself affects him. And he was actually recording a video when he just kind of snapped at one point, and it was so cathartic to watch in a way, to just watch a guy just be going about just doing a thing as normal, to then just turn to the camera and then just sort of have the quietest outburst I've ever seen. Like I like when he was talking about it, I was expecting screaming, shouting, and crying. I wasn't expecting that, and it was so one. It was reaffirming to sort of know that there are other people who sort of out there who think the same way that I do, and also put themselves under the same pressures and that kind of thing. And it's then understanding that there are ways to deal with that, and
Yeah,
that you're not the only person in the world dealing with that, or that there's so few of you dealing with that. But it's reaffirming. And I'll be honest with you, I go back and I watch that video on occasion.
yeah.
I,
I did the
just
same with a very similar topic that gripped me a lot.
yeah. And beyond that as well, he does a lot of silly videos, and he does a lot of ones where he talks about other stuff outside of that as well. And if you pay attention to his videos, there's so much good information scattered through them. So much good information. In fact, one of them, he was talking about how posting clips to Twitter ups engagement by quite considerable margins. Like we're talking to times 100 to 1,000.
Really?
Um, yeah, and that's just posting Twitch clips to Twitter. But
Hmm.
if you put a little bit of edit work into those clips and put them up, that magnifies it as well, because what you're doing is you're creating bespoke content for Twitter in a way.
Oh, you're giving me ideas.
Yeah. This is why, this is why I say that this guy's YouTube channel is incredible. It's inspiring. Like, genuinely, if you do nothing else, just go watch his Twitch videos. They're in a playlist in their own. But I would highly recommend you watch his vlog content, starting from the first video of season 1 up until the most current video of season 4. And it's great. It's absolutely great,
Yeah,
genuinely, and you will learn a lot about what you can do as a content creator with what's available. And in fact, I'm actually going to give everybody here a free tip. If you're wanting to learn how to edit and you're after a free tool to use, there is a piece of software that I've always been aware of, but has recently been I've been made aware that it's now on par with Adobe Premiere as an editing software. And that software is called DaVinci Resolve, and it's free. And you
hmm.
can pay money for a license for it, but it's free. If you want to edit, I would highly recommend you learn how to edit on that. But at its core, it's color grading software. So that's a free tip to people, because the best tools that you have are the tools you have available to you. You
Yeah,
don't need high end or expensive gear. Like I use the Adobe Creative Cloud because I have access to it, because I can
yeah.
use it.
And also
Yeah.
fuck Adobe. Fuck
Yeah,
anything put
because
out by Adobe.
yes. However, when it comes to cameras, I have a Canon 70D, which is not the best camera on the market. It's good for photos, it's decent for videos, but it's old and it's not up to scratch anymore. It's not great, but it's the tool I have. And
Yeah,
with this tool, I can go make videos, I can go record footage, I can take photos. And with the other tools I have, I can improve the footage to make it look good. Like, Triss, did I like I'm Do you know what? I'm going to grab the video that I've got unlisted on my channel. So when I was tooling around with it, I filmed a bit of footage that was I filmed it badly because I put the camera in the glare of the sun and I got lens flare.
Yeah, you show me this one.
Yeah, I showed you that one. Oh, hello.
Hey, Mitty, thank you for the raid with 8 people.
It's
How are you doing? What did you play?
it's
How did it go? Did you eat pizza today? All wonderful questions answered on a postcard, please.
it's a nerd.
We have Hayden here as well, so sorry.
What do you
Mitty
mean,
was wrong.
sorry? What do you mean by that, Triss? Why are you apologising for my presence?
You know damn well why.
I mean, first you milk me, and then you apologise for my presence.
Again, you know, wait, what's a good one? You know damn well why.
So, hello everybody from Ari's chat. We've been having a discussion about all sorts. Like we've gone from editing to politics and
Yeah.
back again. And
To be
I'm
fair,
currently talking.
this is just like the last 15 minutes, so let's talk about like lighthearted stuff.
Yeah, which is sort of
Yeah.
what I'm on about here.
Yeah.
And so this is sort of relevant to Ari as well, if they're interested in such a thing. I'm talking about how the best tools that you can use for content creation are the tools you have on hand, that you have access to. So as I was saying, I filmed some footage badly. So I placed this camera.
You don't fucked up. You fucked up.
I did. Who fucked up?
You fucked up.
Yes, I did. So like the footage is like washed out because of the sunlight. There's lens flare, which I have to pass off as say I was inspired by J.J. Abrams because everything has to be because nothing can be an accident in filming. And this was the first bit of footage that I color corrected, and I then did a comparison. Actually, I'm going to post the video in chat. It's like 40 seconds long.
Wow,
And
what a self promo.
Ha ha ha. That was unintentional. But you can see sort of the impact I had on the footage. Left is like the left side is the footage straight out of the camera, nothing done to it, and the footage on the right is after I've color graded it. And considering that was bad footage on a suboptimal camera, that came out looking quite good, even if I do say so myself.
I think I said at the time it looks like the opening to a trainer.
Yeah, I did. Yeah, in hindsight, I did color grade it a little too dark.
Yeah.
But it's being able to correct that footage with the skills that I've learned and developed that I'm able to hopefully improve the content, and that's all come from watching Joe's content because watching Joe's videos inspired me to pick my camera up again and actually try stuff with it, and it's paid off massively. I'm actually enjoying picking up and using my camera. I'm enjoying going out and doing things again. It's great fun.
Yeah. Sounds wonderful.
Yeah.
And also, in between to the raiders, 2 things. Mitty, what did you actually draw on stream? I'm very curious. Tell me all about it. Because like when people come into raid, you gotta let them promote the channel a little bit. Come on, Hayden, you should know this.
Yes. My bad. Sorry. I didn't want to step on your toes and run your stream for you.
Sure, that's why, sure. And to all of the other people who join in with the raid, if you would be so kind, please double click on my profile picture so that Twitch actually counts you as a viewer rather than thinking that you're a bot. Because Twitch deserves to recognize your validity. And also it boosts my numbers. But yeah, you mentioned you were doing an art stream, so I'm very curious. What did you art? And how did it turn out? Because you always make such wonderful art. I just drew things people wanted? Ooh.
That sounds fun.
That's fun. Ooh, speaking of Pokemon talking, I saw something really interested in someone else's stream. And I'm gonna. Harvey hates Sinnoh. Unacceptable, Harvey. Unacceptable.
I
This
mean,
is a love Sinnoh region. But yeah,
Sinnoh isn't
something
my favourite region.
unacceptable. Something I saw recently with somebody who I've been watching, who I'm kind of trying to network with, who had everybody who was subbed in chat. When you showed up in chat, during the just chatting overlay, would show up as a Pokemon with the name overhead on the bottom of the screen.
Mm.
And any message you send in chat would show up in a text bubble above your Pokemon. And like the Pokemon would move around chat, and you can even control them
That's cool.
with chat commands. And like I want to look into how that worked, and because I'm planning to completely overhaul my stream overlay. Because what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna have like a box that the game will fit in, and then like I will be in one of the corners, and then like kind of like bars, and then I'm gonna make the bottom bar. I wasn't sure what to put in there. I put in I will like put stream avatars in, and then on the right side will be the chat. Would you ever do a Nuzlocke? I don't think I would do a Nuzlocke, but I would be open to doing a Pokemon run on stream, like a Pokemon game. I'd be willing to look into this. I might do a one of those Pokemon ROM hacks that are extra challenging. I think those would be a lot of fun.
Mm.
But I don't really like Nuzlocks myself. Because I don't like additional rules. I guess that's not my favorite way of doing extra challenges. But one of the ROM hacks I've played is of Pokemon Black and White, in which every single gym has 6 Pokemon. And like that adds so much challenge.
Yeah.
But it's also one in which you can get the complete Pokedex completed without needing to trade. So it's a really good Pokemon game. You can like get any Pokemon you want.
I've never done a Nuzlocke either, and it's definitely one of those things I want to do at some point. I just need to get around to. I've got like I need more time basically. Like
Mood.
let's just like double the length of days. Get rid of sleep and keep my working hours the same. And then
Yeah.
with all the extra time, I'll just do everything I want to do.
I will say I've noticed this in regards to like content creation. The fact that I'm on disability benefits is giving me such an advantage for content creation,
Oh
because
God, yeah.
my specific disability means that the only thing I can really do is sit behind my computer. But
Yeah.
I still can't really work 40 hours a week, but I can spend a lot of time on content creation that people who are forced to work full time can't.
Yeah. But I'm hobbled by my job because I have to work around my working hours basically.
Yeah.
And
And I don't
which
have
is
that
why
problem.
yeah, if I could stream every day, I would. Which is why sometimes, like, if I'm doing some edit work or something and I feel in the mood, I'll just put the edit work on stream, and I'll just because then
Yeah.
basically I'd be doing what I was doing anyway. It's just so happens that I can just toss it on stream, and then I'm basically getting more done.
Yeah, I tried that last week Wednesday, but like nobody turned up, so I just turned OBS off.
Yeah, I mean, it's very hit and miss. Like, you have to sort of get things right, and as well, like I think as well because you're using an atypical editing software. Like the
I
ones people want,
guess.
yeah, because the ones people want to know are they want to know the big ones like Adobe um or Avid, those kind of ones, the ones that they can the ones that they know and have heard of.
I suppose. But
Yeah.
yeah.
And as well, if you do some crazy cool stuff in After Effects, people will come and watch because they want to learn how to do the crazy cool stuff as well. And then they get
Yeah.
scared by how much effort it is.
I considered doing programming streams. But I kind of ended up again deciding against it, mostly because of how much prep time it would take. Like I
Yeah.
would have to stop my editing in order to be able to do that.
Yeah. It is just To be honest, having to work around work is why you haven't tried streaming again. Also, Wi-Fi is untrustworthy, and your laptop can be a bit very touch and go. I can suggest things to fix that. Totally not plugging my skills.
But yeah, we are kind of coming up to the end of how long you can stay.
Yes, we are.
It was wonderful to have you on as a guest.
Yeah, it was quite fun. We ended up talking quite a
3
bit
hours,
about
yeah.
a lot of stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. The Trisscast will be up on YouTube, so check out our YouTube channel if you're interested. Also keep an eye on our Twitter, and if you want to, join the Discord. Later, I will attempt to this week also get another episode of the Jedi Fallen Order streams edited down, so definitely keep your eye open for that. Hopefully, it will be done by Thursday again. It should be doable, but I can't make a guarantee. And as well, Hayden,
Yo.
we need to, like, once you're done with Hal Walker, we need to talk about co-op streams.
Yes, we do.
Because I'm thinking once you're
Because
done with the Hal Walker marathon, you're gonna have an opening there.
yes, like Hellwalker, when it's done in like 3 months or so,
Yeah, gonna take ages, but
it's taken so much longer than expected.
yeah.
But it's good fun.
It's
And
like
the
when
thing
you
is,
advertise it, I was like, oh, this sounds like it's gonna be 1 or 2 streams, right? Oh yeah, we're gonna go through our 6 games. That's not 1 or 2 streams.
yeah,
Like you're not you're not like speed runners who have been routing these games for ages. You can't do this in like
no,
1 or 2, because like you can do it in 1 day if you route it.
like my problem is that I grossly underestimated how much content there was in Doom 1. That was my
Hmm.
first mistake.
Yeah.
But I got there. I got there in the end.
Yeah. Which game are you on now? Still on Doom 3?
No, I beat Doom. No, I think we're on Doom 64 now.
Okay.
So my bet is that Sam's going to overtake me in 64 because he knows where all the secrets are. And apparently the
Hmm.
secrets are vital to beating the game, and I can't be bothered with that. So um my current forecast for it is Sam's going to overtake me in 64 and get to 2016 first. All I then have to do is keep pace with him through 2016, and then once we get to Eternal, that's it. I've won.
Yeah.
But if Sam beats 2016 well ahead of me, then it's anybody's game.
Yeah. That makes sense.
Yeah.
I am excited to see more of it, but I also understand that you both are very busy. But
Oh
we
god,
absolutely
yes.
should play more games. And also, I'm gonna try and get more streamers on board, like more other content creators on board to be a guest on the Trisscast. So if you yourself are a creator who's interested, feel free to message me within the community Discord, or recommend anybody you think would be a great addition to the Trisscast. I would absolutely love to see more people here. And in general, it's always great to have guests on. So hopefully, hopefully I can keep this going, make this a weekly thing. Gonna need to start looking for next week's guest. But yeah. With that, hope
I must be
everybody in
well.
chat has a wonderful day. I'm gonna look for who I can raid. Who shall we
Ooh.
raid?
Professor Rachel is currently streaming Dark Souls.
Yeah, I'm gonna check if anybody within. Not really much. Don't really see anybody within the stream team that I know who is live currently. Let's check this community. I kind of like looking within the communities I'm in. I think I'm gonna send you all over to Winter, who is a Also a pro streamer, and is also trans and makes wonderful content. She has the stream avatars I mentioned earlier, so highly recommend it. So go in there, be nice, represent me, be nice for me, please. You're representing me. And Hayden, can you come up with a good raid message?
You've asked me, my brain's gone blank now.
The moment I ask a question, you fill me in my hour of need.
Yeah. It's because I don't know them. If I knew them, I'd be able to.
That's fair. In that case, I want everybody to put in chat when we raid Owo, including
Oh,
you,
no.
Hayden. I'll be watching.
No, I'm not doing it.
But with that, hope everybody has a wonderful night. Hope to see you all on the other side. And have a wonderful, wonderful time. Goodbye.
Night all.